Hello and welcome to another live video. I am your host with the most. I never know how to start these live chats, but anyway, welcome to another live chat. I have been busy researching, which is all I ever seem to do, and I have been researching the Tatarian Empire, which is exactly what I thought it was. I was doing a deep dive into it, and there is zero people that's got any evidence whatsoever that there was an advanced Tatarian race. All we have is people saying these buildings were built by the Tatarians. Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Just show me the evidence. Well, they were built by the Tatarians. Yeah, show me the evidence. That's all I can find. So technically, I did do on my Patreon page, I did do a poll saying, please let me know what videos you would like next. And because clearly the Tatarian people, not the people that believe in the advanced Tatarian race, are really, really, really bad at researching. I mean, zero research really, because otherwise they would go, yeah, we haven't actually got any evidence for this, so maybe we should stop talking about it. So I did say that I would do the Tatarian because that was the one that the poll had the most people saying that they would like to see. The problem is I can't actually properly do a decent video on it because there's zero evidence. It's literally just going to be me going, yeah, here's other people's videos, and you'll see that they can't give any evidence. That's all it's going to be. So with that in mind, I started to do other deep dives, and I did a deep dive into the Vatican, which is probably going to get me blocked and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I mean, the one video that did get me a strike on TikTok was the one where I showed an image of, I can't say what it is because it got me blocked, got me a strike against me. Out of the 2,000 odd videos I've done, this one had a strike, and it was to do with religious. They said it was religious, and yet there's Christ knows how many religious people doing videos and stuff on TikTok. So, but yeah, this deep dive, I've just been editing it into the Vatican, and you'll probably not know a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. I don't think anyone's done, well, let's be honest, no one's done what I'm doing on this Vatican video. There has been videos out there, but no one's going to be looking at it from the perspective that I look at it. I know it sounds big-headed, but I just look at things from, right down to the nuts and bolts. So, for example, Emperor Constantine built it. He didn't live in it. He was the highest. The only other highest above him would have been a god or a pope. Believe it or not, another 1,300 years later, a pope finally moves in there. So, you could argue that it was built as a temple, but of course I go through all of that and show that there's too many rooms for it to have been built as a temple. It was built as, and the doors are freaking 21, 22 foot tall. It was built for a god. That's the only other higher than an emperor, a pope or a god. So you're going to love that video. It's going to come out this coming Thursday. So if you're interested in learning stuff that you'll never hear anywhere else before, because no one does what I do. And I know it sounds big-headed, it's not. It's just there's only a handful of people that can do what I do. And again, not because I'm clever or anything, it's because I bother doing the research. And so that's why you'll love these videos. Jason, thank you, Kerry. You should never do that when I'm doing my own big-headed speech there about how amazing I am. Ergus wrote, "What's the purpose of our being, sir? You can't answer that." You've oh, bless you. Let me see if you follow me. I'm guessing you do follow me. So what's the purpose of our being? So the Anunnaki created us. Kerry's wrote, but you are amazing. Oh, no, stop it, Kerry, don't. I'll carry on doing stupid, telling everyone just how wonderful I am, because Kerry told me I am. Yeah, so the Anunnaki created us, Homo sapiens, for the reason to help mine for gold. We've got all the tablets and everything else, and we've got the fused chromosomes and everything else to prove that that's what they created the Homo sapiens for. Now, if you're saying, is there a bigger purpose to life, such as, you know, life after death, then if you watch my amazing video on 3-hour documentary on everything you need to know about spirits, you'll find, based off of my research, that the orb, an entity, joins with the pineal gland and is connected with you in that way that is energy, basically. And then when you die, because you and it were connected, so in other words, your thoughts were connected to it, you are now still floating around after you've left your body, even though you're now in another entity. You're now with that orb. That orb has a job to do. Not us, we're just chemicals that come and go, but energy doesn't come and go. Energy doesn't, you can't destroy energy, it only dissipates into something else, according to science. So the entity has a job to do, and it has to learn. That's what its job is. If you go by the Emerald Tablets, if you talk to clairvoyants or hypnoregressions, they'll give you the reasons why it needs to learn. In other words, it comes back round into another person, and so on and so on. So if you think that we're here because of an almighty being, you'll never come across the evidence of that, ever. But you will come across the evidence that the Anunnaki genetically modified us, and they were called gods. So technically I have answered it. Hopefully that helps. It may not be the answer you want. You may want us to be, out of all the species that's been on this planet, the billions of different species. Thank you, Farmer. Bless you, thank you. You may want us thick humans, and I say thick because we destroy the planet. You know, how thick are we? We've got leaders telling us what they're going to do to us in the next 5 years, and it's not going to be nice. And we've got who telling us what they're going to be giving us in the next few years again, and they're telling us that, you know, we might not all be here in 5 years because they're planning stuff, etc., etc., etc. And you think we're that worthy of being having a purpose? If you do, I'm not saying you do, but if you do, then that is just I can't get on board with that. I think we're just in terms of we're not far up from an amoeba. We are really just stupidly thick. Primordial has wrote, so our true history for melanin begins unwhite. Begins unwhite, or you put n-white. So our true history for melanin begins unwhite. I'm not quite sure what you mean by unwhite, but if you want to know where I believe, based off of the evidence that I've got, the Anunnaki were pale-skinned. Blue eyes, blonde hair. It's pretty much everywhere you go, even the Greek gods, the Roman gods, blah blah blah. They're all the same. So thank you, History and Coins. So the Anunnaki genetically created a species that they said, the first one that came out able-bodied was red as clay, and the second one came out with sand colour hair and similar skin colour to them, which would have been more pale, if not olive. And of course, those people were recreated 7 more times, or technically 8 more times, and then they were put to work in South Africa. And so we know that people from Africa are dark-skinned. So over the hundreds of thousands of years that the Anunnaki had them there, either their skin got darker, or that's how they were originally, seen. And then the Anunnaki bred with those 130 odd thousand years after they had created them, which then gave rise to what they call demigods, or Homo sapiens sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens, in other words, children from those. And that's where we get the Rh negative and we get the pale skin and blue eyes from. So it was a mixture from the Anunnaki breeding with those. So hopefully that answers your question. Old Schools wrote, where is your proof that what you're saying is true? Absolutely any of my videos. you don't follow me, so you have no idea, but just feel free to watch any of my videos. Now I say this all the time, I've only just started this live, so all you have to do ladies and gentlemen, this is just I love doing this. All you have to do is go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Seriously, do this. Watch 10 minutes of the video. Scroll down on the homepage. There's thousands of videos on there, but scroll down on the homepage. You won't bother. Where it says click here, click that. You won't bother. Watch 10 minutes of that. Thank you, History and Coins, for pinning up the website address. Watch 10 minutes of that. It's a 3-hour documentary that proves that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible and that genetically created us, etc., etc. Watch 10 minutes out of the 3 hours. Come back with just one bit of evidence to prove my evidence wrong. I say this all the time on these lives. Do you know how many people has watched 10 minutes? I'll still be on in 10 minutes. You can go on, off you go. You won't. No one does. So what they either do is they do actually go and watch it and think, oh crap, this guy's got amazing research, he's brilliant, I should be following him. Or they don't bother. So, old schoolboy, feel free to follow me because you'll find a lot of evidence that I show. Sorry, I just get fed up because he put a little face there to show, yeah, you're talking crap. Unfortunately, I'm not. So there you go. Erg has wrote, I've been in the Vatican. They had me arrested for some hours for insisting to go downstairs. Wow. Yeah, you. I don't know what to say about that. Bloody hell. You're a brave man. Yeah, the Vatican's got some serious secrets. I'm surprised they let you out. Wow. Yeah, brave person. They've probably got you on a bloody a list now that they're keeping an eye on. Let's Not has wrote hi, and Let's Not, how are you? Nice of you to join. Thank you for saying hi. Me Too has wrote good afternoon. Hi, Me Too. Nice of you to join again. Erg has wrote Constantine the Great was from a region known as Kosovo nowadays. I haven't looked into where he was born. I looked into, obviously, what made him decide to build the Vatican, etc. Funny enough, God told him. A bit like God told Solomon, which is also in my amazing new documentary that will be out this Thursday. So you're going to love that. R.J. Kayes wrote, was Christianity written by Romans and Greeks? It's a tricky one. So the Anunnaki had many gods, and those gods went to different places. Those gods had stories written about them in different places. So, for example, Greek had stories, Egypt had stories, Rome had stories, and obviously around Jesus, stories were written about him. So people added to the God stories about Jesus, and so you end up with Christianity that sort of becomes Catholic, from what I understand. So I think it's really just a whole hodgepodge of people writing about older things that happened and just picking a name, really. It's just my thoughts on it. Now, if you watch my new documentary that's coming out Thursday on the Vatican, you'll see that I conclude, not the whole video, but I conclude regarding the part about religion that while the Anunnaki never created religion, they certainly down the line, because obviously it was here, and people, they couldn't go around to every single person and say, look, there's no religion, just follow me. So when different religions sprung up, there wasn't, it's not like they could fly around and tell everyone. So they had to utilize the best they could to keep the control. Even though technically they gave us control of the Earth, they still had some hand in what's going on, because if we went away and did our own thing and ended up with spaceships that could go off to their planet and start attacking them, they wouldn't want that. So they needed some sort of control, which is why the dollar bill pretty much says that they're still in control. So I think if you watch my latest video, that the Anunnaki gods utilised the religion side of it as a way of them keeping that control that they still needed. I am as wrote, they don't have balls either. You do, so thanks. Oh, thank you. I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. I hope you haven't seen some of those videos that I've been in. Just joking. Ergus wrote, Atlantis is located in the Durus. If you actually watch my amazing video that's pinned, you'll see it's not. So if I asked you for any evidence you've got of Atlantis, you'll say, oh, there's an old building. And I'll say, is it a city? You'll go, well, not really. And then I'll say, well, is it in concentric circles? And you'll go, not really, no, it's just really a couple of buildings that we may just be able to see. And then I'll say, okay, so have you got any temples on there? No, not really, no. Nothing to do with Thoth, the Atlantean. No. And then you'll go, have you got all of that? And I'll say, yes, I have. And you'll say, this is probably why I follow you. So all you have to do is watch my pinned video, Erg, and you'll see why I am who I am. Speaking of that, there's Kerry's message saying, but you are amazing. Thank you, Kerry. Ergus wrote, are we soulless beings created for a certain purpose until our life expires? I can't say for sure that every single person has a soul. When I say a soul, an orb connected with them, that's my research that leads me to that. I can't say every single person, because I would need to go around to every single person and see if they've got a soul, and I can't do that. But the ones that do seem to have souls are the ones that will come through from clairvoyance and say that they're on the other side, from my research. So yeah, we're not created for anything. If you don't have, ladies and gentlemen, time with your partner and they don't get pregnant, I'm referring to the old-fashioned women that actually could get pregnant. If you don't have any kids with those with your partner, then there's no purpose for that kid. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you have a spare half hour, or in some people's cases a minute, and you have ladies and gentlemen time, then that child is born. Does that child have a purpose simply because you guys had a couple of spare minutes? Do you see where I'm going with it? It's not. We're just flesh and blood. It's it's the same as a couple of stray cats out on the street. They give birth to a little kitten, and does that have a purpose? Why us? What makes us so special? And it's really goes back to the Bible. We think we're special because the Bible makes it feel like that we're more superior than any other species on this planet. We're not, in my opinion. I am as wrote correct. I'm not quite sure what that was referring to, but and then I am as wrote, dude, you are just brilliant. Oh, well, in that case, thank you very much. I am slightly big-headed. I know. For some reason or other, it went from me being, knowing I'm, yeah. Anyway, Old Blue has wrote, that would make a good sci-fi show. I'm guessing let me just see if you do follow me, so I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. This is live. I'm read every single question out. MUFC has wrote, Anunnaki created humans. They did indeed. Well done. You've obviously done your own homework, hopefully. MUFC has wrote, finally someone who does lives and knows the truth. Well, thank you again. MUFC as wrote, humans were genetically modified by the Anunnaki. We was Homo sapiens before they did. Technically, there was no Homo. Well, we don't have any evidence of Homo sapiens before the Anunnaki genetically modified the creature that they said they modified. Now, my personal opinion is that it was a Neanderthal, and the reason for that is because most of us have Neanderthal DNA in us. So, if most of us got Neanderthal DNA in us, there's some that have Homo erectus, and there's a very, very small percentage that has, I think, Denivism, apparently. And there may be some people over in Indonesia that may have Florensis DNA in them. But that's only because we ended up, over the 300,000 years of being around, we ended up breeding with those. So that's the reason why we end up with different DNAs in us. But so I think the Homo sapiens is the offspring, or not offspring, genetic creation of the Anunnaki and Neanderthal, and then of course we're Homo sapiens sapien, which mainstream won't tell you that there's another missing link. They tell you there's one missing link. Go talk to any biologist or anything and say, what's the second missing link? They'll go, what do you mean? And you'll say, well, we're missing a link between Neanderthal and Homo sapien, yeah, or should we say hominids and Homo sapiens, yeah. So what's the missing link between Homo sapien and Homo sapiens sapien? We must have bred with something, and obviously we don't have, or the Homo sapiens must have bred with something to create Homo sapiens sapien, but no one tells us what that is. So clearly we know it's the Anunnaki. Ergos wrote, are they a lot more powerful or just very advanced in terms of tech? The Anunnaki, in my opinion, is about 300 years more advanced than right where we are now. Which sounds a lot. You could say, well, 300 years, where the hell will we be in 300 years? Will be, I believe, where they are now. So, of course, when you roll that back to 300,000 years ago, you're going to say, well, hang on a minute, they're technologically would have been less than where they are now, because you're talking 300,000 years ago. In other words, we were not technically advanced 300,000 years ago, so the chances are they were less technically advanced than we are now. However, 300,000 years is only, I think, 120 years or something of their time. So they're not, they're not that far back from where they were, or not that far advanced from where they were 300,000 years ago. So I don't think they're powerful in any other form other than technology that we will eventually get to in about 300 years, if not probably sooner, to be honest. And that's really only because of the back engineering of and doing deals with an even more advanced alien race such as the Tall Whites. MUFC is where Anunnaki needed gold to help their atmosphere. You obviously have done your homework, which is brilliant. Well done. They did indeed. Yeah, they needed to sprinkle particles in their atmosphere. Ergos wrote, I'm Pal AF and built muscular. Am I an Anunnaki? So chances are way, way, way down the line, possibly up to 100,000 years ago, one of your ancestors would have been an ancestor from the Anunnaki, and either a Homo sapien or a Homo sapiens sapien, depending on whether they decided to breed with the Homo sapiens sapiens, which we know they did because they said it. So it just depends on which one it was that would have been your ancestor. Whereas darker skinned people, they obviously bred within themselves and kept to the skin colour. Now obviously down the line, people have been breeding, white people have been breeding with darker skinned people, which give us sometimes differences in skin tone. And hair, in fact, as well. Sometimes black people end up with straight hair. And there are cases of children, black children with blue eyes. Of course, the Anunnaki had blue eyes. So I wouldn't say you're a direct descendant. Thank you, Gobsmack. Oh, hi, Gobsmack. I wouldn't say you're a direct descendant of the Anunnaki. Obviously, I don't think any of us here that we're aware of would be a direct descendant, because chances are you'll probably live a lot longer and probably be a little bit taller, and the fact that your mum or dad would have been human means you would have been a demigod. So the chances of one of the Anunnaki picking up a woman or male and breeding with them and then sticking them back down, and the mum not telling you that she was, so the chances are, now if you had Rh negative blood as well, then I would say obviously down the line, definitely obviously the Anunnaki side came out more than the Homo sapien side came out. Thomas wrote, who or was there people prior to the Anunnaki arriving? So there were many different hominids around the world, and I do believe there's many still unfound. In other words, species that have been buried to the Great Flood. So one day we'll come across another species and we'll go, wow, this is really far down. This must be really old because it's really far down, even though really it's far down in the ground because of the deluge that was created by the ice shelf breaking off for the Great Flood. So technically it was people. We've got, I think there works out to be about 9 or 10, I might be wrong, 9 or 10 hominids that we can name: Florensis, Erectus, Neanderthal, Denivism. There's about 10. Don't ask me to name them all. There's the names I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah. So there's about 9 or 10 that we're aware of that were here alive with the Anunnaki. But then, of course, if you go further back, then there was other species, Cro-Magnon, etc., that would have been prior to the Anunnaki. So yeah, no one. And the Garrigans as well. That was another one that was here prior to the Anunnaki. They were as intelligent as humans now. Whether they're referring to Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, because there is a difference between Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens sapiens. The sapiens sapiens are smarter. That's a fact, because the Anunnaki said it, and they're the ones that got taught. Whereas the Homo sapiens couldn't really be taught in the same way that the Homo sapiens could. Sapiens could. But the Garrigans, they were, according to Enlil, in his own words, as smart as men. Now, but I don't know which men they're referring to, because obviously the Homo sapiens were smarter than the Neanderthal. Otherwise, they would have just used the Neanderthal to help with the mining operation. So they obviously upgraded Neanderthal. But yeah, none of them could do what we do as Homo sapiens sapiens. So my guess is the Garrigans were as smart as the Homo sapiens, not Homo sapiens sapiens. MUFC has wrote, debate with religious people and put them in their place. Oh, I have many a time. Many a time. Yeah, I mean, even on here, if you listen in, you'll see a religious person will say something, and then I'll just point out the evidence, and then they run. It's normally what happens. Yeah, it's pretty much. It's quite funny, really. Bless them. Tucker's right. How did the Anunnaki communicate with each other around Earth and beyond? It's a really good question, actually. The first person to ask that. So go to number 1 in the class for that. So the Anunnaki, if you go by the tablets in the Columbia University, what we can see is when Alula came here, there was a radio transmission to the home planet, Nibiru. Didn't show, apparently it was only voice, so there was no, they didn't have the ability to show video face or FaceTime from their planet to Earth. Now they may have had the ability, but just didn't bother. But either way, the Alula spoke to King Anu via a voice transmission. Now they did have the ability to send data as well, because if you go by the Moorhen's translations of those tablets, the quality of the gold had to be sent to, in other words, data needed to be sent to Nibiru, which they did, which Alula did. So they had wireless, not just voice, but wireless data transfer as well from here to their home planet. So when they came here, obviously we know that they had technology to be able to transfer or talk vast distances. So for them to be here on Earth and not be able to talk to each other would be a step down. So this is just my humble opinion, that their watch that's on their wrist is a device for them to talk to other people, other Anunnaki. That's just my assumption on it, because although they did wear jewelry, they wore lots of jewelry, even the men wore jewelry, so just in case you're wondering, so therefore they were, like we seem to all be going now, pick a gender, any gender. They were Mao. They certainly were Mao. They like women. How you doing? And that, they like real women, so that they could have children with them. And when I mean real women that can really have children without changing anything else. So they wore makeup, and they wore jewelry on their face. They had earrings, men did, and whatnot. But the device on their wrist seems to be a device as opposed to jewelry. Now they did have some people have an arthritis band where it's like copper and it goes round, doesn't connect. It sort of nearly connects to each other. So in other words, it's sort of like an unconnected ring that they slip in their hand, and they have it and they wear it. They had those, which could have been made from anything, because you can't really tell from the carving. It could have been stone, it could have been, I doubt if it's stone, but I'm just saying it could have been anything, or it could have been metal, it could have been rubber, it could have been anything. But that, to me, is either jewellery or was used for a particular purpose. But the watch clearly is not just jewellery, that's not just decorative. It had a purpose. So that's how I think. Now, I might be completely wrong on that, but that's my take on it. MUFC has wrote, it's a shame all these religions have been brainwashed mankind. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah, you're right. Pooh, P-O-O-H, has wrote, Anunnaki is not hard to believe. It wouldn't be like Elon going to Mars and starting life there then. Yeah, I mean, give us another 300 years and... well, when I say 300 years, 300 of their years, which is 9,000 of our years. So... in 300 of their years, or just one of their years, we will leapfrog them in terms of, because their planet, their year is a Shah, which is 3,600 years. We've actually got tablets that explain all of that. This is what baffles me, absolutely baffles me. We have tablets that explain what their Shah is, and yet people still think there's no such thing as a planet. Nibiru. So what are they talking about then when they're talking about their year? Defies belief. But yeah, so yeah, give us 300 years or 3,600 years, and then we'll be able to do, if we found another planet that we could get to, and because we're already genetically modifying creatures now. And probably cloning humans. I know we cloned Dolly the sheep years back, but we're probably doing a lot more than that without us being told. Thomas wrote, who were the peoples prior to the Anunnaki? I'm assuming Neanderthals. As I mentioned earlier, many different hominid species here on Earth, but the ones that I believe they used to create Homo sapiens were Neanderthal from my research. MUFC has wrote religion is man-made. I totally agree with you. Spot on. Yeah. Pooh has wrote so much more logical that the Anunnaki made us. Well, we actually have fused chromosomes where no other hominid has. So either God, Almighty God, went, oh crap, I've cocked up on all these other ones, or oh God, he wouldn't say oh God because he's God. If you believed in an almighty being. Of course, I've got the evidence that the Anunnaki were called gods. That's their race name. So obviously that's why the Bible talks about gods, plural. But yeah, it makes it so much easier to work out when... And the funny thing is, the other creatures that have fused chromosomes are ones that the Anunnaki said they brought here. They did. Feel free to watch my videos. You'll see I read out the translations. So the only other creatures that's got fused chromosomes... Yeah, say no more. And the funny thing is, the Vatican, speaking of fused chromosomes and genetically modifying creatures, the Vatican's got carvings and paintings of things like centaurs, which technically they're Rome. Greek was the ones that had those. So you got to ask yourself, why bother? You know, because unless they were really prevalent, why did someone go to the Vatican and say, do you know what? Over in Greece, they've got this really great carving. Of course, the Greeks got those stories of the centaurs because we've actually got cylinder seals from Samaria of centaurs and hydras and so on. We've got cylinder seals of cyclopses. So all of the stories come from basically, when I say Samaria, the Middle East, where the Anunnaki were. And of course, they genetically modified creatures. That's why we're here in the first place. So they did modify many different creatures, which is where all those stories come from. Now, the Vatican, why the hell would they bother having, you know, if it was just a one-off weird creature that was, you know, a one-off centaur, why bother carving that? I mean, if I went up to him and said, oh, you know, carve a, you know, a 70-foot tall or 10-foot tall, I made up some crap, you know, jelly-looking creature, would they bother? No. Which means they're aware of what it was, in my opinion. Ergers wrote, are Anunnaki our enemies, or are they just watchdogs peacekeeping us? So, of course, they never was our enemy, per se. Enlil got angry with us a few times, tried to wipe us out. So in the Bible, you'll know him as God, the one that was trying to wipe us out. Technically, he didn't try and wipe us out as such. He wanted to kill the people where first time he wanted to kill people where he was sleeping because we was making too much noise. That's what it says in the Art Trahasis in the British Museum. Then he tried to wipe out people over a span of, what is it, 300, 600, over a couple of thousand years. And what he done was he and this is all again in the Art Trahasis, he cut off the waterways, he used a virus and things like that, which you'll know as the 10 plagues of Egypt, even though the actual aftermath was in Egypt, because when he was blocking off the waterways, it doesn't take an Einstein or an True History to work out when you've got tablets telling us that over in the Middle East someone was blocking off the waterways and all the insects decided to go to the nearest water source, which happens to be the Nile, and suddenly all these an infestation of these frogs and these locusts, etc., all find their way to the next nearest water source, and then suddenly people write about it in Egypt and go, wow, you know, we're being attacked. No, it wasn't nothing to do with you. It was happening elsewhere. Feel free to watch my videos. You'll see all the evidence of that. So yeah, no, they weren't enemies. They were just I mean, they created us to start with, but they ended up allowing us to inherit the earth. So they're not enemies, but if I was them, I would keep a very watchful eye on us, which I think they're doing, just in case. And in fact, if you watch my video on the dollar bill, you'll see that we have to get approval for things from the main one that just so happens to be in the building that I'm doing a deep dive on at the moment. You can probably guess where that building is. Yeah. Scrolling on, I have to be careful what I say here. Ergas wrote, in Albanian language, God is called a Zot, might be translated to Thoth. I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so. I do recall Thoth not actually being Thoth. It's something that we've ended up creating the name Thoth. It wasn't actually Thoth. I can't remember the original name for him, but somewhere along the line can't have ended up calling it Thoth. Now I know in Sumerian he would have been known as Dingazida, but it was I can't remember where I read it, so forgive me. But yeah, so I doubt it, but I hear what you're saying. It's an interesting point. Canucks wrote, do any of the popes, whether white, black or grey, interact with the Anunnaki today? So I am doing a deep dive video which will be out Thursday, and the part I've just stopped editing at the moment is to do with popes. Ooh, how do I say this without spoiling the video? So, okay, so the Anunnaki wore fish suits, and those fish suits had the fish head on their head, and these fish were very large, and the top part of the fish looks like what the Pope's hat is. In other words, a fish hat. I have to be really careful what I say here. For now, what I'll do is I'll say that 1,300 years after the Vatican was built, the first Pope moved into it. And there was already Anunnaki in the Vatican at that point. So now whether or not the modern ones are physically talking, I somehow doubt it. I believe it's more like the case of so for example, when a president becomes a president in America, he's briefed, but the people that's briefing him are there regardless of which president's there. Do you get what I'm saying? So in other words, the Pope, although now, back in the olden days, yes, but now the Pope is really just a figurehead as opposed to someone that's getting involved. Same as a president is really, let's be honest, is pretty much just a figurehead. The people running the show behind dictate what happens. So, for example, George Bush Sr., he was the head of CIA, if I'm not mistaken. He is fully aware of what went on with aliens, etc., etc. Reagan was briefed, whereas George W. Bush Sr. was fully aware because he's the one that was telling Reagan what, as a CIA director, what was deemed a need-to-know basis. So the answer to your question is probably not now, no, but certainly back when the Vatican was first populated by a pope, yes. Time check 4 p.m. So I'm slightly behind. Sorry, thank you, Jane. I am behind on the messages. This is live. I read every single question out. Judel, I hope I pronounced that right. Wrote, weird to discredit human achievements. Not really. You've got where you say it's weird to discredit. You don't follow me. Where you say it's in fact, let's look at it the other way. Show me any evidence that us humans built those pyramids or Angkor Wat or anything. You got to remember the blocks for Angkor Wat is the largest temple complex in the world. It's absolutely massive. Hectares, 455 hectares, I think it is. Those stone blocks to build Angkor Wat are 75 miles away, over hills, marshes, forests. So when you say it's weird to discredit human achievements, let's put it the other way and say, show me evidence that we actually did that, and you won't be able to. So when you realise you can't do that, then what's left, no matter, there's an old saying, once you rule out everything, I'm paraphrasing there, I can't remember exactly, but once you rule out everything, whatever's left, no matter how silly, is probably the right answer. So sorry, Doodle, to make you look, bad there, but when you say it's weird to discredit human achievements, show me the evidence that we've done something like that, and you can't. So don't say to me that I've got, I'm discrediting human achievements when there's zero evidence that we actually did it. Do you see my point? So please don't say that unless you've got evidence to prove that we did definitely do it. Kerry had wrote to Doodle, what human achievements are being discredited? I'm guessing they were on about things like the Great Pyramids and stuff like that. The Grand Spiriters wrote, we are all the sons and daughters of them. Yeah, one way or another. Obviously, there are, when you say sons and daughters, obviously the Anunnaki genetically created the first Homo sapiens, which I do believe there may still be Homo sapiens on this planet, not Homo sapiens sapiens, because if there was if all the Homo sapiens would have had to have bred with Homo sapiens, or would have had to have bred with Homo sapiens sapiens or Anunnaki for them, the next generation of them to be Homo sapiens sapiens. And I can't say for sure that the Anunnaki or Homo sapiens sapiens went round and physically bred with every single black person, which would have been the first set of Homo sapiens. I can't guarantee that. So there is a chance that when you say sons and daughters of them, e.g. Anunnaki, technically, if we were created by the Anunnaki, are we technically the sons of the Anunnaki? Even though they gave birth to us, are we technically? I guess technically they are. So, okay, so I'll go along with that, that we are technically sons and daughters of them. Victor's wrote, on the Gregorian calendar, I don't know what I was talking about for you to mention that, so it's not really a question or anything, so I'm not quite sure what to say on that. Fenru has wrote, Earth is donut shaped, the blue sky is ocean above us, and eclipses are space wows. And yeah, no point when someone doesn't follow me and just waste my time. I've got far more important things to do than read out rubbish. Pooh has wrote, I think the Anunnaki are more than 300 years advanced from us. Well, Billy Carson reckons they're 1,000,000 years ahead of us. Now, think about where we will be in 1,000 years. Where will we be in 1,000 years? Where will we be in 500,000 years? So so from that point of view, we would, regardless of whether we had back-engineered UFOs, anti-gravity, in 500,000 years we would have had anti-gravity regardless. There's no way we would not have worked that out from where we are now. So the Anunnaki, from everything that I've read in terms of their description of their crafts, etc., I don't think they had anti-gravity technology. So I know you could say, but that's just one piece of technology. Maybe they didn't need anti-gravity, or maybe their planet had different gravity compared to ours, etc. So you could argue that, but in a million years from where we are now, the chances are we probably could figure out how to create some sort of synthetic gold to sprinkle in our atmosphere. They didn't. So there's a lot of things that in a million years I think we would be able to do that they could have done if they were a million years more advanced than us, but I don't think they were. But I'd like to know what makes you think they're more than 300 years more advanced than us. Victor, who was the one that wrote on the Gregorian calendar, wrote speculative or factual or proof. I'm not quite sure whether you're referring to the Gregorian calendar that you mentioned earlier, or whether you're talking about anything that I'm saying. So if I've got evidence of it, I'll tell you that I've got evidence, and I'll tell you where I'm getting the evidence from, or I'll say go watch my video which has the evidence in it for you to see. If I don't have the evidence, I will say things like I believe, or if it's from a whistleblower, I'll say I've heard. So that way it covers me, because obviously I don't want someone like myself, which I don't think there's anyone out there other than probably Dan McLaren, who is in the same frame of mind as me. I'm not saying he's smarter than me, or I'm not saying you're smarter than me, or I'm not saying I'm smarter than you. I'm just saying in the way that we look at things, the only one that I'm aware of out there that's very similar to me in the way that we look at things is Dan McLaren. I'm not quite sure why I got onto that now. My brain's just fried. So forgive me for changing the subject there. That was weird. Completely gone out my head why. But yeah, so the evidence is there if you want to see it, if I pointed it out. Scrolling down, this is live. I'm reading every single question out. Howard Brown has wrote, it wouldn't surprise me if aliens were involved in our past, especially with the pyramids. Feel free to watch my... So if anyone wants evidence, 100% evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, I say every single time I do a live, and I pretty much do a live every few days. All you have to do, and I've done the videos, it's on my website, it's on YouTube. All you have to do, if you want that evidence, if you want to say, wow, there you go, that's the end of the Bible, it's to do with the Anunnaki. If you want to sit down and you only need 10 minutes. It's a 3-hour documentary, but you only need 10 minutes. If you want that evidence to finally say, that's the Anunnaki, that was Enlil, that was Enki, those moments in time. So, for example, where Enlil allowed the flood to happen, and Enki was the one that went and told Noah, or Ziazudra as he was originally called. If you want all of that evidence, all you have to do is go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. It's very easy. There's thousands of videos, but I've put it on the home page. Scroll down to where it says in blue, big letters, click here. Just watch that. It's YouTube. It's on YouTube. It'll take you to YouTube, but it's a lot easier for me to say go to my website than it is hunt for this title and that title and whatever else. There you go. So that will solve whether or not the gods were the gods in the Bible. Victor's wrote, has a body of Anunnaki ever been found? Now there are reports that Gilgamesh, which would have technically been a demigod, so we can't really count him as a body. Now there have been skeletons found of Anunnaki. There have been giant skeletons found. We know that. We've got old newspaper articles, etc., of giant skeletons being found and then passed to places like the Smithsonian, where they just suddenly disappear. And of course, there's stories of giant skeletons in the Vatican vault. Now, there's only around 2,000 Anunnaki here at any one time. So in order for them to be buried here, we would need to know that they were buried here. So 2,000 is not a lot. So it's literally on the size of this planet. Even if we just narrowed it down to the Middle East, even though we do know that they did travel, we ended up with a pantheon in Rome and the Greeks and stuff like that. So we know, and Scandinavia for the Norse gods. So we know the Anunnaki travelled. So with 2,000 split across India, Middle East, and so on, even if they did have the bodies buried here and not taken back to their home planet, it would literally be like looking in a needle in a haystack, unless they somehow left us a massive marker stone, such as a tomb, massive tomb, for us to understand that it's not just for a normal person that got buried. Now, the other problem with that is, going back to the Smithsonian, for example, is even if we did have tombs, which there are tombs around the world, that did have an Anunnaki skeleton inside it, the chances that we'll ever be told about it is zero. So the answer to your question is, there may have been Anunnaki skeletons found. Are we ever going to be told about it? Probably not. Sharon's wrote, what about RH negative blood? So the Anunnaki, from my research, when they bred with the Homo sapiens, which created the Homo sapiens sapiens, it was their own blood type that infused with the Homo sapiens, which created, when they created the Homo sapiens sapiens, some, I can't say all and I can't say none, but I can say some, had RH negative blood. So, in my opinion, based off of everything that I've learned, it is the Anunnaki's blood that is passed down. Anubian has wrote, we are aliens. Technically, we're part aliens, because obviously the Neanderthals were here on Earth. Sorry to the people that want to join. I do have a Patreon page where the higher tiered, which they get thousands, over 160 videos, long documentaries, audio books, etc. Anyway, the Patreon higher tiered people are the ones that I kind of now only allow up, unless I have a pre-chat with someone and when we both agree that. Sorry, so don't hate me for that. It's only because obviously there's 99 messages, and if I now let someone up that doesn't really know what they're talking about, and I don't mean to sound rude, I don't know whether you do, but in the past I have let people up where it's been a car crash, more times than I've let people up that actually know what they're talking about. So it's so I kind of do the Patreon thing now, knowing that at least they would have, been that, because I've had people come on here that want to play a game. I'm in the middle of a live chat and they go, one game, and I'm like, no. So yeah, Thomas wrote, thank you for your reply, Altruist. You're more than welcome. Ergas wrote, are you saying European DNA being closer to the Anunnaki? The pale skin, yes. Yeah, simply because they were pale skin. So now if you've got pale skin, blonde hair or red hair and RH negative, then you would be really close to the Anunnaki. But that doesn't, mean anything really, because obviously the Anunnaki may have had dark-skinned children with the dark-skinned humans that they bred with. I don't know. I can't say 100% one way or another, but obviously the pale skin suddenly appeared, blue eyes suddenly appeared. So, but the Anunnaki may have had offspring that were dark-skinned as well. I can't say one way or another. Victor's wrote, are the royals traced back to Adam and Eve? So when you say Adam and Eve, so I don't know if you're aware that Adam and Eve, there was technically two lots of Adam and Eve. There was the very first ones 300,000 years ago that were created by the Anunnaki. They were called, the very first two were called Adamu and Tiamat, if you go by the translations in the Columbia University. 130 odd thousand years later, technically 200,000 years later, give or take. Sorry, I don't know where I got 130,000 from. Technically, 200,000 years later, the Anunnaki Enki bred with two females, descendants of the ones from 200,000 years before, bred with two females. They both gave birth. They gave birth dawn and dusk. Enki named those women Dawn and Dusk because they gave birth. They gave birth to two children, a boy and a girl. The boy was called Adapa. The girl was called Tai Tai or Titi. I like saying titty. Sorry. It's my guilty pleasure. But yeah, they were the ones that we know as Adam and Eve. Now, Enki then, so that's the reason why that we've got their lineage written down as opposed to anyone else, because Enki was a prince. So when you say our royals trace back to Adam and Eve, technically the Igigi came down and took women as well. So they were the fallen angels. So they bred, and obviously the other Anunnaki that was already here on Earth, more than likely bred with Homo sapiens. So when you say trace back to Adam and Eve, technically all of the gods bred, when I say all, a lot of the gods probably bred with Homo sapiens, if not Homo sapiens sapiens, in other words, the descendants of someone else. Now, the descendants of Adam and Eve all ended up, they all ended up breeding with someone else, and so the truth of the matter is, we won't have, we can't really say 100% that we're direct from Adam and Eve anymore, because there's too many Anunnaki breeding. But what we can say with a little bit more degree of certainty is that probably a good percentage of us are offspring of Noah and his family. You're going to say, how's that work? Well, because the flood wiped out a lot of people. So the offspring from the Anunnaki and the Homo sapiens, or Homo sapiens, any demigods or any offsprings from the Anunnaki and humans, a lot of those were wiped out in the flood. So whatever was left would have been from people like Noah and the remains of whoever survived. Now, some of those may not have been Homo sapiens. They may have just been Homo sapiens. In other words, people from the South Africa that managed to survive the Great Flood, or Deluge as it was actually called. So we might not be, some of us may not be descendants of Adam and Eve or Adapa and Taitai, but we can guarantee we're all descendants of Adamu and Tiamat. I know Tiamat's also the name of a planet. That's what they called the female. So when you say that the royals being traced back to, so yes, in some degree, the Anunnaki would have, or Enki and Enlil would have had their direct offspring looked after and put in powers of position, or positions of power, should I say, more than just your regular Joe or regular Homo sapien. So now that's not to say every single one of them would have been royal off of the Anunnaki, because if you read the tablets, they did also create priests, and they created pharaohs, etc. And sometimes where a pharaoh or a king died, the next in line may not have been their offspring, because they may not have had one. So then a pharaoh may have been superseded by a priest, for example, even but for a short period of time before another pharaoh took over, or killed the previous one, and so on and so on. So the chances are the royals were of some Anunnaki bloodline, royal bloodline, in other words, Enki, Marduk, Ninurta, not necessarily Nimna, I wouldn't have thought, but so yes, the answer to your question is more than likely. Ergas wrote, is Allah the Allah from Islam? No. It's a fair question, and I have to be careful how I answer this, because I know people. I have done quite an extensive look into it, and I'm very, very careful when I talk about Allah, because when I have talked about it before and gave out the information with evidence, that particular lot of people seem to there seems to be something that just blocks their brain, and it goes a bit funny. So all I'll say is Alula wasn't Allah was actually an Allah. It was actually pronounced the same, not Alula. There was an Allah who worked with I don't want to spoil it. Who worked with a guy called when I say a guy, a ruler. Well, he wasn't a ruler to start with. He was a high-ranking general called Muslim Ili. That's all I'm going to say. It's a shame because I'd love to go into it and then explain all of the stuff and point out where Allah comes from and stuff like that. But it's just not worth it. It's just too much aggro. Brothers wrote, have you read the King James Version? Unfortunately, I have, yeah. So, as you probably are aware, for example, the King James Version is a changed version from the version before that and the version before that and the version before that. So, for example, the King James Version should have had, if you go by the original Hebrew Bible, should have had the word gods in there an extra 50 to 100 times, plural gods. And of course the King James Version has taken that out. And of course the King James Version says God created man, God, what was it? God created the universe. My brain's gone. God created the... I think it was God created the heavens and the universe, Genesis 1. Whereas actually, if you actually bother doing the research, you'll see that the actual Hebrew text says God's preparing heaven and earth. So it's totally different. In other words, don't bother reading anything other than, for example, the Young's literal translation. If you're going to read any Bible, you read the Young's literal translation, and then you'll start going, oh dear, they're talking about the Anunnaki. And then you'll say, wow, let me follow our true history because I'm finally learning some stuff instead of being told a lie because people change the Bible over and over and over. Unlike our true history, who doesn't bother lying. 78777 has wrote, do the amount of Anunnaki DNA make people smarter than people who doesn't have it? It's a fair question. So the answer to that is actually yes. So if you read what they call the Tale of Adapa, there's a few different Adapa stories actually I've come across. But if you read the Tale of Adapa, it talks about Enki finding out that his offspring from the Homo sapien, obviously he doesn't call it the Homo sapien, he calls it I can't remember what he called it. I think something like woman. The offspring off of Anunnaki and Homo sapien, which produced Homo sapien, were more intelligent. So if you read the Tale of Adapa, you'll see that Enki's surprised and says, wow, this one's more intelligent and it can speak and it can learn. And so that's why Adam and Eve, their sons were taught to farm and I can never remember the other word. Farming and cattle, I suppose. That's classed the same thing. One did the wheat and Cain and Abel. One did the wheat and one did the animals. But that's the reason why they were taught, whereas the other Homo sapiens prior to that didn't. And according to the translations in the Columbia University, the first Homo sapiens that came out, their foreman, the one that was in charge of them in the mines, said that they just grunted and had to be shouted at all the time. A bit like me at school, probably. So the answer to your question is yes. Because of the Anunnaki breeding with us, we are a lot smarter than we would have been without them. Victor's wrote, is there a chief Anunnaki I can defer a final intellectual dispute to? Marduk would now probably be the main one. If you pop to Rome, knock on the big doors of the Vatican, I don't know if you know, there's like 53 miles of shelving underneath. It's massive, and there's tunnels. There's even supposedly a train under there. if you pop along there and ask to see him, and if you're lucky enough, you could probably meet him. Gobsmackers wrote, exactly, a real woman like Kerry. Oh, hey, get a room, you two. And then Kerry's wrote, Kerry, read between the lines. Yeah, Kerry is absolutely gorgeous, and a lovely female. Kerry's just reading a few bits down. Kerry and Gobsmack are chatting, and then Kerry's wrote, I missed that. You're making me blush, stop. Ergus wrote, why did Abrahamic religions fought paganism so much? Kerry's wrote, stop. Bless you, Kerry, bless. I don't know. The problem is, once religions kind of started, I didn't really bother looking into it too much because there's no point, because it's kind of man-made. So I can't answer that. There's probably other people that's bothered wasting their time on figuring out religions, but I didn't bother doing that because it's just man-made. Victor's wrote, did the Anunnaki create something they could not control? We are Frankenstein, laugh out loud. It's an interesting question. Let me think on that. Did they create something they couldn't control? Technically us, you're right. Technically they couldn't control us because we was breeding too quick. That's why they ended up lowering our lifespan to 120 years, as it says in the Bible as well. What other creatures? Thank you, Viva. Oh, bless you. Thank you. I'm trying to think what other creatures they would have created. I can name the creatures they created, but whether or not they were out of control or not, I can't think of anything other than us. It's a really good question. Go number 2 in the class for that. It was a really good question. Rubik's Cube has wrote correct. Hopefully that was something that I said earlier. Eldred has wrote, the Pyramid of Giza's dimensions encode our birth cycles. So the problem with that is the TV that I'm looking at right now, if I put my arm out, it's the same length as my arm. Or both arms outstretched, should I say. Now that TV wasn't thought of for that reason. All I'm saying is sometimes you can look for things and find something and then say, there you go, that matches something else. So I am very wary when it comes to things that people say, oh, look, I mean, the pyramid, the Great Pyramid is 365 and a quarter blocks going up. Now, you could say, well, back then, 10,000 BC, give or take, or 9,000 BC, our planet, our year was 3,600 and 3,600. I've just lost it now, but you get the idea. And a quarter, now it's a half. So you could say that was the amount of bricks relevant to the year cycle, and in that case you could say yes. But there are other instances where you could say, well, X means X, therefore it's. So I'm always wary on things that people can look into. I mean, say for example the DNA, where people say it says Yahweh because it's got the alphabet. Us British use A to Z, and of course when we do the DNA we have the letters of the alphabet in it. So when people have worked out that out of the millions of different DNA combinations there is one that says YH WH, people go, that's Yahweh, therefore God put that in in people. Yeah, right. So yeah, that's why I say I hear what you're saying, but sometimes things can be coincidence if you look for them. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Ergus wrote, we are taught that Sumerians believed in Anunnakis as gods and worshipped them. What's the relation? I'm trying to find the next bit. What's the relation? Trying to find the. I'm guessing there is no next bit. What's the relation? So basically, if me being an omnipotent man as I am, just call me Q. Me being as egotistical as I am, if I created a new little species and got them to do things for me, would I have them worship me? Possibly. I'm quite sad like that. So imagine a group of people, such as the Anunnaki, that all decided that they should have, wherever they were in charge of a particular group of people, in other words, Babylon or or Sapur or Eridu or wherever it was, that group of people that's in that area worshipped that one Anunnaki. And that's pretty much all it was. Now, when you say worship, you could say, well, hang on a minute, there's a religion right there. But as I always use the analogy, Superman kneeled before Zod, albeit for a split second. Does that mean that Superman worshipped Zod? No, it doesn't. It means he was forced to worship. So there's a difference between religion and being forced to do something. So, but yeah, so that's all it was. It was just them being, let's be honest, greedy and selfish, and because they created us, they could. Kerry's wrote, can you briefly describe which Anunnaki were given which areas to rule? Oh God. I could probably do a video for you. So in Nana, Eridu was obviously Enki. He pretty much stayed there most of the time after he came back from South Africa. Enlil moved a couple of times, had different buildings. Went to he was in Israel at one point, from my research, but mostly Enlil, you'll find him at the top of the Euphrates and Tigris. He had a place that we now know as Nineveh Library, I think it is. I'm trying to remember. Is it Nineveh Library? I think it might be Nineveh Library. And underneath that was actually Enlil's temple, but it got built over because obviously the Great Flood. So you can quite easily see. James wrote, all religions welcome, be respectful. Jane, feel free to use executive order if you feel that they're not going to... yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd need to sit down and do a map for you, because they did move. Sometimes they did move around. Obviously, we know that Marduk was Babylon at one point, and then ended up over in Egypt, and then ended up back in Israel. When I say back, ended up in Israel, and then Inanna was. Well, Erishkigal. There's a lot of places. They're mostly Middle East, but I'd need to do a map, really, if that's okay, to do for you, because Erishkigal, even though she had her own place over in South Africa, which we know as hell, Nergal, who ended up being her partner, he did actually have his own place over in... I can't remember where it was off the top of my head. I have done a video with it. So yeah, I'd need to look through it. Sorry, I'd need to... Yeah, I mean, if you want, just remind me and I'll do a whole map for you. I did start a map, but years ago, and the idea was to put where everyone went, at what time frame and everything. It was getting really complicated and it was getting massive. So if I just did a map of where everyone was and just write the date on it instead of where they went to and from, I was doing bloody arrows and all sorts of stuff on the one. So maybe I should just convert that and just stop and just write who was where, when. If you want me to do it, let me know and I'll do that. Victor's wrote, they decided to rule society without the capacity to do so. Blame Scotland. Then Victor wrote, in the defence of justice, yeah. I'm not sure what that was referring to. I'm slightly behind. Victor's wrote gross misliterature of apparent barbarism in plain biblical sight. Great Falumd, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, has wrote laugh out loud. What is this malarkey? And then wrote, wow, you are a genius. I love listening to your voice. I'm turning to the dark side now. I was normally interested in women. Oh, for God's sakes, don't let me read the rest of that out. Stop, for crying out loud. I don't know what's wrong with people these days. Victor's wrote exoskeletons. I'm guessing that's carrying on from what you was talking about a second ago. Sorry, my phone seems to be freezing a little bit. I don't know what's happening. Sorry. Sorry about this. I don't know if you can still hear me. Alright, this is working again. Blue has wrote, ain't this just story of the Assassin's Creed game? I love the simplicity of people's brains. So instead of Blue, that's the person's name, instead of Blue going, oh, hang on a minute, did the Assassin's Creed get the information from older texts, like the 2 million tablets, ancient tablets that came out before the computer game? So, do you know, this is why I said the other day on my live, and I felt guilty after. I felt guilty in bed. I went to bed, and I felt so guilty that I was saying, because I was probably the thickest kid in school. I was in special needs and everything, and I was saying on a live the other day that the reason why I'm derogatory sometimes is because I'm shocked that I was, technically I should be, but I put the effort in, and I use my brain. So technically everyone here on this live should have, a smarter intellect than me and more brains and everything else, technically. And then you get people like Blue who can't comprehend that there is things out there that was before the game. I don't know. Jeremy's wrote, don't Trump let out the secrets about aliens? Didn't Trump let out the secrets about aliens? I don't think he did, really, because I think he would be no longer with us, like JFK. Even Barack Obama has tried to, on the Jimmy Kimmel show, tried to sort of let slip, but without letting slip, because they can't. They're just people. They're just humans, and the powers that be, that these guys come and go. That they're not presidents forever, so they're not. Yeah, they're not. You get what I'm saying. Cool-minded has wrote, "Truth is all," with little hearts. Oh, thank you. And then wrote, "Regardless." Square Root has wrote, all mythology copies biblical letters and twists to preserve them. All mythology copies biblical letters. The problem you've got there is, you don't follow me, so I don't mind being a little bit to the point. The problem you've got there is mythology has been proven that sometimes mythology has been found. So, for example, the city of Troy, that was classed as a mythology, has been found. It's a fact. Cyclopses is a real thing that's been proven with Cyclopeia. So there's I've done a whole video on myths that turned out to be correct. So when you say all mythology, you have to be careful when you say all mythology, because sometimes not all mythology is myth. So what I'll do is I'll help you out. So Square Root wrote, instead of what they wrote, they used their intellect, which is very good. Well done, Square Root. And you actually wrote the stories of bygone eras. There you go. Well done, Square. Copy biblical letters. Well, technically, the again, you're wrong there as well. So technically, the stories of bygone eras, or as you originally called it, mythology, actually stems prior to the biblical letters. So where you're saying it copies biblical letters, mythology such as the Hydra, the Centaur, the Anunnaki, if you want to even call them myths, all predate anything biblical. you got to remember the biblical really is only around 2,000 years old. Everything else is thousands and thousands of years old. So again, slightly wrong on that. Probably, without sounding rude, probably better just to follow me and learn, if that's okay. You might find stuff interesting. Wounded Healer has wrote, maybe from other dimensions, not other planets. So I'm guessing, let me just see if you follow me. So oh, no you don't, so I can be a little bit more to the point. And I love doing this, sorry. I only love doing it because when I was at school, people laughed at me, and now I get the chance to laugh back because I put the effort in and use my little brain. So when you say maybe from other dimensions, not from other planets, so in other words, you're referring to the background where it says gods or aliens, etc. Now, technically, even if they come from another dimension, they still would be alien to us. So there's your first problem. Second is, what you're saying is you believe that even though we're physically sitting and standing on a planet, that there is no chance that any of the other, Christ knows how many planets out there in our universe, won't support life. However, you would rather go with something from another dimension. We have zero evidence that we've even got a second dimension. Do you see where I'm going with that? So you're quite happy to say another dimension which we've got zero evidence of, but we do have evidence of planets. Just go up and look out at night. If you're lucky, sometimes during the day. So yeah, you can see why sometimes I do like to utilize my brain from being in special needs at school to showing people that, come on, use your brain, please. We've got planets, we've got zero evidence of dimensions. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to help Wounded Healer out. Wounded Healer says, yeah, we've got lots of planets. Chances are they're from planets. Because we've got zero evidence of any dimensions. Yeah, no worries at all, Wounded Healer. Brinda's wrote, new follower. Oh, bless you. Ignore my little rants. It's just ignore those. Just block your ears. And then come back when I'm talking about stuff. Cow-minded has wrote, calming achievements didn't do. Claiming achievements didn't do. I'm guessing you're, seeing as you don't follow me, I'm guessing you're saying that I've claimed achievements that I didn't do. All you have to do is watch any of my videos and point to where I've if that's what you're referring to, I don't know if it is, and show me. I mean, you could just listen to me for 5 minutes and you realise that I'm not picking up, this is stuff that I've learned. This is not just me making stuff up. Victor's wrote, melanated Buddhas from ice space. I'm guessing the eyes is a an error. So melanated Buddhas from space. I'm going to go back to see what you was referring to before, because otherwise it's I can't help but think of, I can't see, it's quite far back, sorry, I'm scrolling back. I can't help but think of anyone old enough to remember the Muppets. Pigs in space. Sorry, Victor, I was just find Samuels wrote, no human hand history claims to be the architect. No human hand history claims to be the architect. I don't know what that means. No human hand history. No human hand history. I'm trying to put commas in there to try and figure out what you mean. No, comma, even though there's not. I'm just trying to work out. Human hand history claims to be the architect. Or no human, comma, hand. I don't know what it means. I'm so sorry. It's probably me, not you. Joel's has wrote, that's not what a god is. And then Joel's has wrote fallen angels. But if you're interested in seeing the evidence of what a god is, all you have to do, if anyone's interested in seeing the evidence, I say it all the time, that person never come back, did they? I doubt it. So all you have to do is just go to my website, outtruehistory.co.uk, scroll down on the homepage to where it says click here. Thank you, Mr. Content, if I'm reading that right. Thank you, that's an interesting name. yeah, so on my homepage, I've got 1,000+ videos you can look for anything on, but if you're after the evidence that... Oh, thank you again, Mr. Content. If you're after the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, that's their race name. So when Joel says that's not what a god is, you're going by the Bible, which the Bible went by the older stories and older texts. So if you're going to go by misinterpretation, then you can say pretty much what you want, but I'll go with the original version. I don't know about you, I'll always go with the original version. So the Anunnaki's race names were gods, and not only do I show that, I also show that they did the same things in the Bible that predates the Bible. So either the Bible just so happens to have wrote a story that the Anunnaki did as well, and it was a bit of a coincidence, or the Anunnaki is right, is the ones in the Bible. And of course, when you just do simple things like you work out that God sat down 20 times in the Bible, come on, you realise that God is either tired a lot, and there's only 1,200 to 1,400 pages, and he sits down 20 times. Oh, my back. Oh, hang on. Jeez. And he sits down on a lapis lazuli throne. Go read the book of Ezekiel. Funny enough, Enlil, who would have been the highest at that point, that's what he was called, the highest. Funny, same as God, which is weird because you would only have God, an almighty being, as the highest if there was ones possibly underneath. Otherwise, it would just be God. You wouldn't need the highest. So anyway, but yeah, funny enough, Enlil has a lapis lazuli throne made for him, and he's also the highest. So come on, I mean, it doesn't take an Einstein or an Our True History to work that one out. So yeah, Joel's, if you're interested in learning, properly learning, none of this baloney that you get from any of these other books, just watch my videos. The Never Ending Lie has wrote, is it possible if there's more land past the ice walls that Nibiru could be out or be on the outskirts? So the ice wall that you're referring to, there is zero evidence of an ice wall anywhere. Now the old maps, if you actually bother, and I don't mean to sound rude to you, but if flat earthers bothered to look, they'll see that the Anunnaki actually had maps dating right back to before the flood even, and they would put rings around the area of whatever it is they're talking about. So for example, Irvin Finkel, the head curator of the British Museum for the Sumerian section or the Middle East, he's got a tablet with that has the map of the Middle East, and it's called the Map of the World. Doesn't mean it's the world, it's actually the Middle East, and around the outside of this map are rings, and the Anunnaki did that. So unfortunately, when you've got maps, old maps, older than Perry Reese maps, you see rings around it, people have assumed that it is ice wall. So that's your first problem that flat earthers got. Second, more people have seen mermaids, that's a fact, than anyone has seen an ice wall behind anywhere other than the North and South Pole. 0 people have seen an ice wall behind Australia or Scotland, anywhere. That's a fact, 100%. And I would ask for the name of the person and any evidence that they actually saw an ice wall behind anywhere other than the North and South Pole. Then the other problem you've got is where they take the information from Admiral Byrd, which I love this because it just shows how simple it is. And you've got to remember, I'm thick, and if I can work it out, so when Admiral Byrd says that beyond the pole in the South Pole, all it takes is 2 seconds to do a bit of research, and you realise that when Admiral Byrd went past the pole that was put there by Scott of the Antarctic, he was the actual first person to go further than that in a plane that now had enough fuel to go further. And when he saw extra land, what he was referring to was land that is available to use. So for example, if I had a packet of biscuits and 2 days later I thought, damn, I've got no biscuits left, and I look in the pack and there's none, and then I see 2 biscuits over there on the side. I'll say, oh, brilliant, I've got some extra biscuits. Wow. Doesn't mean there was 2 more biscuits that the shop gave me. It means those extra biscuits were ones that I wasn't aware of that I still had from the packet. So now we can back that up by Oxford University also agreeing that the ice shelf broke, which caused the Great Tsunami, as well as the tablets in the British Museum that tell us that the ice shelf broke and caused the tsunami, which caused the Great Flood. So to answer your question about the ice wall, etc., blah, 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 and also I am the guy that's worked out with evidence, 100% evidence as always, what the firmament was. And if you go watch my amazing documentary on the firmament. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone in between. I did a video showing what the firmament was, the very first mention of the firmament. It's to do with the asteroid belt. And I show that beautifully. It's a very well done video. Go watch it, long documentary. Now, I put part of that up on my TikTok, because it's a long documentary. I put part of it up on TikTok, and people that watched it all the way through saw the part showing that certainly there's not a glass dome and there's no ice wall. So, but it doesn't go, the rest of it that's on my Patreon page, the whole video carries on and shows the evidence, 100% evidence that was to do with the asteroid belt. Now, some guy doesn't even follow me, that had nicked my, that had stitched my video about the firmament. He cut it off, the one that's on TikTok. He cut it off before it carried on, explaining that there's no ice wall, etc., with evidence. And so he's now got that, making it look like my video is saying that there is an ice wall, so we cut it off before the rest of the evidence. And some of the comments on there were like, oh wow, this proves that there was an ice wall, etc. And I wrote on there saying, why not actually show the full video that's on TikTok? And if you want to show the full video, let me know. But yeah, so people, this is the difference between my research and anyone else's. People nick and pick and choose what they want to see. And I don't do that. So unfortunately, flat earthers do that. They pick and choose what they want. So the answer to your question is no, there is no. Nibiru was a planet. It was a planet called... The Nibiru actually translates into the place of crossing, which is where, if you go by the tablets in the British Museum and the Columbia University translations, Nibiru smashed into a planet called Tiamat, which broke up and became the asteroid belt, which is the firmament. They called it the hammer bracelet, but the locking of, in other words, the separation between one heaven and another, which is why you've got heavens in the Bible and heavens in the Anunnaki text. It's all there in my amazing long documentary with evidence, as always. So yeah, by the way, if you don't know who I am, I've solved many things, over 20 things that no one else has ever. One is amazing, 20 is freaking genius, if you ask me. I've solved heaven and hell. I've solved what Stonehenge was for. I've solved and why it was put there. I've solved where Atlantis is. You go watch any of my videos. Sorry, a little bit of an advert there. Joel's has wrote 1 of 3. Thank you, Rowan. I can't pronounce things as much as I big myself up sometimes. I have got so many flaws, and one of them is that I can't pronounce things, and I can't read, and I can't write, and everything else. So forgive me if I totally butchered your name there. It wasn't intentional. Joel's has wrote 1/3. I'm guessing this might be or 1/3 of angels, sorry, from heaven came to earth. Yes, 200 Anunnaki, 200 Ijiji did, yes. Happy to show you the evidence of that if you're interested in seeing the evidence that the Ijiji, which also translates, depending who's translating it, into watchers, funny enough, or eye in the sky. So some people have actually said that it means young. The Ijiji means young. Either way, either of those 3 is fine by me, because they were young. They were the sons of God that's in the Bible, by the way. Jesus' brothers, if you will. Yeah, they're the ones that physically took our women against their will, which is pretty sick if you ask me. So even if you're religious, that's a no-no. You should put that book right down right now if you are religious and you believe that the sons of God and God was happy for them to take the women and abuse them and physically have children with them when against their will. That's pretty sick, and which is what the actual Ijiji did, by the way. They came down from Mars, from the away station. If you want to see the evidence of that, no problem at all, can happily show you the evidence. So the Ajiji were on Mars, stationed on Mars, which was called Lakmu. It was classed as an away station for them. Again, all evidence on my website, outtruehistory.co.uk, or you can go research it yourself, you'll find the evidence. Jay has wrote, "Hey, Our True History, have you ever covered Wakong Monkey King? Curious if it ties into the Anunnaki." I haven't, actually. Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, it just scrolled all the way to the bottom there. Thank you, Lisa. I'm not sure why it scrolled to the bottom. Oh, no. I don't know if someone got muted or whether it was too many questions. So, to go back to, I can't remember the name of the person now because I can't scroll any higher than what TikTok's allowing me to because it scrolled to the bottom. No, I haven't. I have, on my long list of researching, I have got to do Asia, India, in terms of deep dives, Greek and Roman to properly show who they were in as Anunnaki. So I will get to probably that, but at the moment I haven't, so I apologise. So it scrolled all the way to the bottom, so I don't know if someone got muted or something like that, but so I've now scrolled back to the top of the questions, and unfortunately when that happens sometimes I miss a chunk of questions, so I'm nearer to the bottom, but I have missed questions. It's not my intention. I will sit here for hours reading every single question, so I apologise. It's not me avoiding questions. I never ever do that. I like reading them out. I love it. That's why I do this. So I apologise if I've missed your question. So maybe if I have missed your question, feel free to ask it again. FC is the highest one I can now scroll to. Has wrote, "Our people were wiped out." Obviously not fully, otherwise we wouldn't be here. I'm guessing you're referring to the Great Flood. However, I've missed a chunk of questions, so I don't know whether that's referring to that. I was just reading underneath that Jane had wrote to FC, "Proof in triplicate, you were Anunnaki 10 minutes ago." So I'm guessing FC, who doesn't follow me, is saying things that, and then a few people's asked him for proof from FC, so I'm guessing FC's, without sounding rude, probably making up some stuff. Easier just to follow me instead of making up stuff. It's a lot easier. SKWRL has wrote, "The United States Civil War aliens." I don't know whether you're you've been blocked. Yes, I was wondering whether that was a facetious comment, because obviously I missed a chunk, so I don't know if that was prior, but because obviously the background says aliens, 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 there is a chance that some numpties, some people will say things like, "Oh, so I suppose losing my keys was aliens as well." And that's where I think this person was going with that, and obviously they've been blocked. Yes, and looking down a bit further on, where they wrote first man on the moon, aliens, so I can see why the excellent moderators have blocked a numpty like that. No worries at all. FC has wrote, "My ancestor Anu will avenge us." I'm surprised they haven't blocked you either. Scrolling on, PIOL, I don't know how you would pronounce all of that, has wrote, "What is cube in Mecca?" I haven't done a huge lot into that. Obviously there is a stone that seems to be an asteroid, a black stone that comes from space. I haven't done a huge deep dive into the building, for example, because when I have spoke about such things, people get angry, so I've kind of not bothered looking. Sorry. There's certain people, Christians and Catholics and Buddhists and old people, they're all fine and dandy, they're harmless enough, but some reason or other, certain people just there seems to be issues. I can see why that person. Anna's wrote, "Who are the Smithsonian? Who hide or destroy evidence?" Good question. Go to number 3 in the class for that. So what you'll find is the Smithsonian is funded by, now it's supposed to be, if you read the mainstream version, it's funded by obviously donations and ticket prices and all that kind of stuff. However, when you actually dig a lot deeper, you'll find that the main funding, which also seems to be the ones that dictate what the Smithsonian do, ends up with people like the Rockefellers. Now you could say, well, what's the Rockefellers got to do with ancient history? The Rockefellers, John Rockefeller, founded petroleum, or founded a petroleum company. So what's that got to do with ancient history? Well, that's a very good question as well, because when you realise that the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, pretty much the 13 families that run our planet, do not want us to know about what I'm talking about, you then look into them and you'll find that the Rockefellers tried to build a museum in Egypt, and was turned away back in 1923, I think it was, because they wanted to put their own people in. This is documented, and only show what they want to show from any excavations from Egypt. And of course Rockefellers got turned away at that point. Now it's a totally different game, and of course Rockefellers ended up building their own museum in Israel, and then you'll find that the Rockefellers are heavily invested in the British Museum, and you'll find they're invested in the Baghdad Museum, and you get the list, you get the idea. So the Smithsonian is just part of a bigger group of people that dictate what we're told, if that makes sense. Hat Doggers wrote, if you want to know the real aliens, go to Area 54 and watch History Channel about aliens. So this person put that in capitals and has been blocked already. So I'm guessing a bit further down, this person may have repeated that a few times or did something silly that got them blocked by one of the amazing moderators that are very gorgeous, according to Gobsmack and myself. Without making them blush. I haven't actually seen Jane, so I can't say, but I would assume just from Jane's personality that she's gorgeous no matter what. SKWRL has wrote, but it's okay because it was built by... That was that numpty that got blocked. JG has wrote, by that he meant, did Assassin's Creed copy the Anunnaki story? It's okay, man. Yeah, you see why I go funny, because obviously, when they put a laughing face at the end of it, as if to say... And I have had people that genuinely think that the Anunnaki story is based off of Assassin's Creed. I genuinely have people say that. So when someone says that again, it comes across as, to me, obviously I can only go by the text, that again it's another silly person that hasn't got a clue. But yeah, I mean, all they have to do is just type in on Google or ChatGPT where the Assassin's Creed story comes from, and they'll find that it's from, yes, the original Anunnaki story. So I apologise to whatever that person's name was, I can't remember, but you can see why I get a lot of people saying silly things, as you can see earlier. Eco Warriors wrote, so why would we be listening to your statements? Because I am the foremost expert, I don't lie, and I show evidence. So I can't get much better than that, and I also have disproven some of the other researchers out there that do the same sort of thing as I do, but they don't show evidence, they show their face. I show evidence, so when I can prove them wrong, which I do with evidence, it makes me, there's only a handful of people, so it's not me being better than 9 billion, it's just me being better than a handful of people that do this, that's all. So that's, if you want to listen to my statements, as you say, feel free to do so. If you find that you require the evidence, just watch any of my videos, and if after that you decide that the evidence is too raw, because obviously it shows evidence, and some people out there that are religious, for example, doesn't want to see that, and the amount of times I've told people to go and watch thank you, Nebula, go and watch my videos that are religious, they never do. So it's up to you if you want to, but thank you again, Nebula. Oh bless. Thank you. I got me some roses. Thank you. Victor's wrote, Assassin's Creed is very interesting genetic scientific fact. engrams, for example. I haven't played. My daughter's has played the Assassin's Creed, and she was like pointing out things when I talked to her about the Anunnaki. She's like, "Oh, that's in there, and that's in there." Tim has wrote, "Do you think the Grand Canyon is a mining spot?" So there's a book coming out. Thank you, All Energy. Very soon, probably within the next month or so, and it's a third book to the guy that's amazing, who's done 2 really good books already that people love. And in that book, he covers the Grand Canyon. So in other words, he's done a deep dive into the Grand Canyon, into what it was used for, etc. The answer to your question is the Grand Canyon itself, I don't believe, was mined, but the outskirts, based off of the amazing research of this other person, damn, he's good. The research suggests that there was mining, and he looks into it. I've read his chapter, and he really looks into it deep, into what materials were available and what was mined and where they would have been taken to. So, for example, certain types of material that's in Egypt, they wouldn't have needed to mine because it's already there. So the materials that's been removed from the outskirts of the Grand Canyon are materials that are not indicative to Egypt, for example, that were then found in Egypt. You see where I'm going with this. So the book is going to be out, but you should read his other books. There's like 15 chapters in each book, and my God, they'll blow your mind. Genius. Apparently he's really good looking as well. I don't know whether that's true. I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Erg has wrote, "Why do religions tell us we all came from Adam and Eve?" Because, so if you watch my amazing video, I've done so many videos that's amazing, and I say amazing because I literally rewrote Genesis with evidence. So if you can scroll back, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube, it's on my website as well. It's called Alien Bible. That was the title of the book, video that I done. And so with Genesis, which is pretty much the start of the Bible, I broke it down with evidence and proved that the Genesis was actually talking about 3 different events over 3 different time periods. So with that evidence, which I proved, no one's told me I'm wrong. They can't. When you realise that the Bible has amalgamated, which is what it did, and I unamalgamated Genesis, when you realise that pretty much the whole of the Bible is amalgamated, in other words, mixed in with things that shouldn't be mixed in and different dates, because obviously the older stories, they didn't know what one was what day and what year and which came first. There was no writings on the older stories. In other words, in tablets or in verbal format. There's no way of... if I told you a story and didn't give you a date, you would write that down. And if I told you another story, you'd write that down. And if I kept telling you loads of stories, or, gave you papers and told you to write that down, you would eventually look at them and go, hang on, I think this one was first, and I think this one was second. So what the Bible done is they got mixed up with Adamu, which is why they called him Adam in the Bible, even though it was Adamu. Adamu was the very first Homo sapien able-bodied, whereas the lineage that was written down was from Adapa and Titai, or Titi. That was your Adam and Eve. But they mixed that, and they also mixed the story of the rib. So if you go to the Moorhen translations, you'll see that the Ningazida took something from the rib of Enki and Nimna to inject into both Adamu and Tiamat, the female, so that they could actually physically have children, because they couldn't have children prior to that. And of course Lilith, if you watch my documentary, I'm the only one that's worked out who Lilith was. Go watch my stuff, you'll find that I've worked out so many things that people haven't worked out. Lilith was actually the very first Tiamat, the woman. not the planet. They named her after the planet. But so that's why the Bible gets it all mixed up, because it just like got so many old stories. Oh, there can't be two Adam and Eves. There's got to be one. So they just basically amalgamated it. Thank you to No Camel Toe. Thank you very much. I don't know what you mean. Hat Dog is right. I'm also Anunnaki because my ancestors have that kind of genes. Guys, it's actually real. I can levitate. And I'm sure you're a billionaire, because if you can levitate, you'd be you'd be flying over buildings and into bank vaults and no. I mean you probably are able to levitate. It's just you don't bother doing it on TikTok, and you hide your image as well. So that's no worries at all. Vial. I don't know if that's pronounced Vial. It was wrote Ziazudra is Noah. That's correct. I did say that earlier. The original name for Noah was Ziazudra. Later on, he became known as Upanishtam. Anna's wrote Hi Kerry. Exec Assign has wrote Baby Shark. Alien Mind Control is a classic. Baby Shark. Good for the Goose has wrote the Old Testament is archaeologically, historically, and geographically accurate. Unfortunately, no, it's not. If you watch my amazing documentary called Alien Bible, you'll see that it's inaccurate. Just letting you know. Also, the Genesis part of the Old Testament, where they're talking about the first 7 days, is actually in Eridu, so it's not the first 7 days of creation. And if you don't believe me, look at Penn Museum. They also agree wholeheartedly that Eridu is the location for Genesis, which is obvious because that's when the Anunnaki landed, and that's the first place that they set up camp for the first 7 days. And I do go through that with evidence that the first 7 days, or technically 6, until Enki said on the 7th, let this day be a day of rest, because we will now rest. That's pretty much what he said. So yeah, scrolling down. This is live. I read every single question out, unless I miss some sometimes because it scrolls to the bottom. Hat Dogs has wrote, all of you must watch Avengers Endgame. They use dimensions like Thanos. I'm guessing this person's been blocked, so there's no point in reading out their questions anymore. Victor's wrote, psychological archaeology is the expression in mythology according to George Lucas. Thank you, Curly. Bless you. I should have done it. I'm just going to have a drink. Sorry, guys. Don't hate me. I don't normally try and stop for a second. Got to wet the whistle, as they say. Aliens are real. Wrote, hi, aliens are real. I remember your name from before. And then aliens are real. Wrote, my peeps. Ah, bless. Scrolling down. Victor's wrote, Angkor what? It's a building. But that's not important right now. Come on, who remembers that from Airplane, the movies? He's got to go to a hospital. What's that? It's a big building where people are real. I don't know. The old ones are the funny ones. Jeremy is right. I remember the Muppets. Ah, yes. Yeah. Do you remember Pigs in Space? My little favourite was, what was his name? He looked like Igor or something with his little spiky hair. Yeah. Oh, showing me age now. Don't call me Shirley. There you go. There we go. Well done, Alfredo. Yeah. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom suddenly. I'm just scrolling down again. Peeps. Just getting back to where I was. It just suddenly scrolled. Q-Tours wrote, I think I missed your answer to my question before. I Probably. I can't remember what it was. Sorry. Don't hate me. Sorry. Ergers wrote, can we talk about the 12 evangelists and why we only recognise and accept 4 of them? Probably. There's probably better people out there to talk about that than me. Sorry, it's something I've not... I'm guessing you're on about... when you say evangelists, I'm guessing you're on about people that spread the word and want money for doing so. That's what I'm guessing you're referring to. But yeah, I don't know their names or anything. Barry's wrote, what's your opinion on God? So if you're referring to the God in the Bible, they were the Anunnaki. And you could say, but hang on a minute, why are you saying they? Well, first of all, Elohim is plural. And second of all, it mentions the gods, plural, 300 times in the original Hebrew Bible, less so in the versions thereafter that's been translated from the Hebrew Bible, because people have decided that they didn't want it to say gods in plural. So I have evidence. If anyone's interested in the evidence, 100% evidence, I say this every single time, 100% evidence of the Anunnaki being the gods in the Bible. All you have to do, it's very simple, you sit down, watch it, it's on YouTube. All you have to do is go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk, scroll down to where it says click here in blue letters. You only need 10 minutes. It's a 3-hour documentary proving it, but you only need 10 minutes and you'll go, wow, now I know what the Bible is actually about. So the opinion of God is that the Anunnaki, with evidence, were the gods in the Bible. That's their race name, by the way. Now, if you're asking, is there an almighty being, we have zero evidence of an almighty being, obviously, because the Bible was talking about the Anunnaki, but an almighty being we have zero evidence of. So I would probably say no to that. I mean, in fact, the Anunnaki even describe how our planets were formed, and it wasn't by an almighty being. It was to do with the waters, different waters mingling together, different types, which created the planets. Absu was already here, so they weren't sure how APSU, not to get confused with Abzu, which is South Africa, in the Anunnaki texts. So there's no evidence whatsoever of an almighty being creating anything at all. New World Disorder has wrote, wrong, shut this stream down. And so one of my amazing moderators has already blocked that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you just saw New World Disorder write, wrong, shut this stream down. You will never ever find anyone that will come on and say you're wrong because the tablets you're referring to XYZ. No one, and I know it sounds really big-headed, but no one's ever done or will do come on and say you're wrong because with evidence, which means, because they haven't got evidence, because they can't defute my evidence, it means I'm right and you're correct in listening to me. So where this person saying wrong is really saying right, but I can't prove this person wrong, so therefore I'm going to say shut this stream down because I can't prove this person wrong because he's right. That's really what that person said. So thank you for agreeing with me, New World Disorder. And Bill wrote the same thing. Bill wrote underneath, you have a good imagination. Again, zero comments. You'll never see anyone saying you're wrong because. You can't do that. And Bill's unfortunately just agreed that I'm right again. So Bill, if you think I'm wrong, show me evidence when my evidence is wrong. By God, I've got lots of evidence. Just scroll back on TikTok. Every video I do pretty much shows the evidence of whatever I'm talking about. So once again, Bill's just agreed that I am genius and I'm right. Thank you very much, Bill. I love this. This is nice. I love it when people agree with me. Poor Jane's replying to Bill saying this is live. If you're interested, please scroll on. Yeah, Jane, just executive order straight away, which someone's obviously done anyway, but thank you. The Sheep Herder has wrote, finally a live for me, Church of Atlantis heart. sounds like a cult, but it's aliens IMFA, and then underneath LMFAO, which we all know stands for llamas, marmosuits, pharmaceuticals. No, it doesn't. I'm joking. Thank you, the sheep herder. Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. Good for the Gooses wrote, you call the British Museum a source of truth. So when they've got ancient tablets that's been translated by people that did it before they was even given to the British Museum, then yes. So in other words, so I know you've put laughing out loud faces as if to say I'm stupid for believing the British Museum. So you have to realise that you can't say that the British Museum's lying about 100% of everything. Now, if you do, then I would laugh back at your face because I would think you're stupid for believing that you believe that the British Museum lies about 100% of everything. So, for example, if there's a fire exit and it says exit this way, are you saying that the British Museum's lying? You see my point? I know it sounds trivial, but the point is you can't say that they're lying 100%. So this is why my intellect, unfortunately, sorry, good for Goose, this is why my intellect is quite good, because I can catch people out very easily. So in certain circumstances, I do agree that the British Museum lie. For example, the crystal skulls. So if you watch my amazing documentary on the crystal skulls, I show that the Smithsonian and the British Museum are lying. So where you've put the laughing faces, what you should have done is said, let me see if you follow me, because now you've been blocked by a moderator, so there's no point in carrying on. I've clearly proved my point that sometimes intellect is better than laughing faces. The sheep herders wrote, only thing I don't understand is souls and the afterlife. Everything else is explained. I have got a 3-hour documentary called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits. If you are interested, you can get to that on my website along with the thousands other videos on there. So it shows you what the orbs are and why they connect with us, etc., etc. 3-hour documentary if you're interested, and that should hopefully answer your questions about the afterlife and near-death experience, out-of-body experience, all that kind of stuff is covered. And if you know anything about the way my videos are, I show evidence, because no one has ever come along and said you're wrong because. Philip Brennan has wrote, all makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Philip. Thank you very much. The sheep herders wrote, and I personally think the BOM is legit, and I'm guessing Nephilim or Nephi was a Nephilim, and it's all just aliens. Someone's just sent me a WhatsApp. Sorry, I'm just gonna check who it is because it's important. It's the producer. Right. Okay. Yeah, he's got an actor lined up, a C-list actor lined up already. Anyway, so I'm digressing there. The sheep herders wrote, read the first chapter. It's aliens. Jack has wrote, could be right. Jackimus, should I say? Jackimus has wrote, what's Stonehenge for? Well, it's actually a calendar, which you probably know. Most people know that already. We know that as a fact that the Anunnaki were aware of that if you go by the Book of Enoch, which explains how it works. It actually says it in the Book of Enoch. It explains on the first day the sun will go through and it hit the first gate. They called them gates. On the second day it hits the second gate and da-da-da. And then finally it goes back round and says on the last gate, it restarts back on the first gate. So it tells you what days, and then it even explains about the leap year. So it's a calendar. However, you have to ask yourself the question that no one else asked except for me, because that's the way my brain works, sadly, is why was it positioned in the middle of absolutely nowhere? Because if people were coming from miles around to worship on the day of the equinox, they would need to have mini calendars to know when the day of the equinox would be. And you're thinking, that's a fair point, actually. If they're having to travel miles and miles and miles because there was no settlements, there's a few dead bodies there, but that's explained in my amazing video as to why Stonehenge is exactly where it is. So there is no evidence that people had clocks or calendars back in the times that Stonehenge was built. So therefore, there would have had to have just kept going there every day saying, oh, not quite yet. Ah, damn, we've missed it. So clearly it wasn't for the locals, because there was no locals. So that's how my brain works with my videos. Now, I'm not going to spoil the part as to why it's exactly where it is in the middle of nowhere, because I'd done an amazing video called Stonehenge Solved. And it's also, I don't want to spoil it, but it's there if you are interested on my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. You can get to all of those solved videos that no one else has even thought of asking the questions of there. Ron Wen, I don't know if I'm... Oh, you've... Okay, has wrote Ro-N. Thank you. Okay, because it's RH and... so it's like Rowan. Thank you for because it had a W in it, you see, and because I'm thick, I struggle with pronunciations, and I read it literally. Everything's literal to me. I'm a bit like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. I take everything literal. Berkshire, Berserker Barrage has wrote, God is the creator of reality, not something that abides by its rules. Well, unfortunately, you've got zero evidence of that whatsoever, and we do have evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible. So if you took your Bible away, what evidence have you got that there was a creator of reality, as you say? You've got zero, zilch, nothing. I can guarantee you've got nothing. So the Bible's never been invented. Imagine the Bible's never invented. You would never even been talking about God. That's a fact. You wouldn't even known about it. Unless you looked into the Sumerian tablets or the Babylonian tablets, where you realised that there was a group called the Anunnaki and Igigi that were gods, and that was their race name. So when you say God is the creator of reality, unfortunately, you've got zero evidence of that whatsoever. So you're just making that up because you believed that a book that got things wrong, that copied the older stories. So if you're interested, which you're not, feel free to follow me, which you won't, because I show evidence which you don't. So yeah, but you won't. They don't. They seem to be very blinkered. But there are some people. There's a guy called he's going to kill me if I forget his name. Riz the Biz. He's a Muslim, and he's very, very open to understanding. He totally agrees with what I say, and he calls himself my number one fan. So although he's a Muslim, he actually is a Muslim I'm guessing because of peer pressure. And I wonder if that's the same for Berserk Barrage, who's if you use the thing between your ears, you'd go, well, let's look at what was before the Bible. And obviously you must know that the Bible is a copy of older texts because of the language. For example, Elohim is a Greek word, or is a Hebrew word for the Greek word for gods, and so is angel, is messenger, Greek word. And of course the Greeks got those words from Sumerians, and we do have evidence that the Greeks and the Sumerians did it commingle with each other, going backwards and forwards. So come on, but Berserk. Come on, use that little brain that I didn't when I was for 16 years of my life. I did not use it, really, not at school anyway. Rowan, I've got it right, has put a little thank you, Viva Avid. I'm wondering if that's video at the end of it. Viva Avid, Viva Las Vegas. Yeah, I can't sing. There's a lot of things I can't do. Rowan's put a little halo face thing. Thank you. The sheep herders wrote, I also want to know where Norse mythology ties into this. Funny enough, I have done a deep dive into Norse mythology. You've come to the right place, and I've done 5 videos on the Norse mythology. I have actually solved, unlike no one else, I've solved who the Norse gods were in terms of who they were as Anunnaki. And you're going to say, wow, you're a genius, and thank you very much. But no, honestly, I have, and with evidence, and what you'll find is there was 2 Odins, and you'll say, no, there wasn't, and then when you watch my video you go, frickin' hell, yeah, there was. There was the old Odin, the one that was cast as the guy that created us, in Norse mythology, and then you've got the newer Odin, who was the one that was around at the same time, doing all the fighty stuff about 2,000 years ago. But I'm not spoiling. I don't want to spoil it for you. So I did that. I proved who they were. I proved who the twins were as well. If you know anything about Norse mythology, you know who I'm referring to. I cover that with evidence on who they were, and also I did the frost giant. I'm the only one to work out what the frost giant was with evidence, 100% evidence, guaranteed 100% evidence. So if you want to know what the frost giant was, I show it with evidence. And I mean, not just, oh, here it is. I mean, this is proper evidence. This is stuff this is why no one ever comes back and tells me I'm wrong. So I've done that. I've also done the Valkyrie. I've also covered the dwarfs and the elves. And I've also covered Ragnarok, which has already happened, by the way. Will happen again, but it's already happened, and I show evidence of that. And it was genius. I was struggling. I knew I was right, but I didn't quite. I was one bit of evidence I needed, and because of the way my brain works, I looked at this particular word. I've forgotten it now, but I looked at this particular word and I said that can't be right, because it was basically said pieces. No, it didn't. It said gaming pieces. That was it, gaming pieces. And so basically, after Ragnarok, if you know anything about the Ragnarok story, you got to remember the stories were passed down, and it's people like Snorri that basically wrote down the stories in poetic Eddas, which, so in other words, it's a verbal story from way back. So it's understandable that he made mistakes, and that I've re-corrected it for him, even though he's long gone. Yes, I'm that good that I can recorrect Greek stories, Bible stories, and Norse stories. Go watch my videos, you'll see what I'm on about. Yes, I am big-headed as well, but I'm so damn proud of what I've done. Just go watch the videos if you're interested. Sorry, I digressed there, but yeah, I've covered them. The gaming pieces, that was it. And I thought, no, that's wrong, because after the Ragnarok, the gods found gaming pieces and was happy. That's pretty much the story of it. And I was like, what the frick? How's that work? So when you realise what Ragnarok was, which I show with evidence in my video, I was like, no, they're not going to be happy at finding gaming pieces. So I looked, and I thought, something's not right here. So I looked and see whether there was a different translation of the word gaming, or the original word. I can't pronounce it, it's in bloody Old Norse. But there was a different translation, and it meant life pieces. Bang, got it. World's best researcher. Thank you very much. Pat on my back. Yeah, I was blown away that I got it. Once I realised that said life pieces, I knew I had it. So yeah, feel free to watch any of those if you want to know where it all fits in. I explain it all. I explain why what time frame, who went from where, and all that kind of stuff. I cover it all with evidence. The sheep herders wrote, and where does Baal and Moloch fit in? Thank you, no camel toe. You're just doing that to make me read out your name, aren't you? Thank you for the thing at the top there. So Baal comes in way later. Moloch, I've not looked into too much. I can't answer that. But Baal ends up being one of the Anunnaki. I don't want to spoil it for you because I haven't done a deep dive yet onto Baal. So, as I say, I'll be doing a deep dive in Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Even though I know pretty much who's who and what's what, I need to do the video to prove it. But Baal, you'll probably find, is Nargal, which is the brother of Ningazida, brother of Marduk as well. Jackie Mus has put laughing faces. Hopefully that was something funny I said. The sheep herders wrote, I followed host in case he answers any of these questions in the future lives. He probably has a plan of what he says and doesn't want to stray too far from what he has planned to say. I can only go by the question, so it's not. I'm guessing what you're trying to do there. Thank you, Nebraska. I'm probably pronounced that wrong. What you're probably saying, the sheep herder, is that you're following me so that next time you listen to my live, if I deviate from what I've said, which I don't, therefore you're going to be able to catch me out. I'm guessing that's your plan. Good luck with that. You can go. I tell you what, you can go watch my previous lives. Saves you waiting for the next live. Go watch loads of previous lives and see where I'm wrong. Now, my early lives, I did make an error. It was only because of my error, and that was because I believed at the time that the Anunnaki had elongated skulls. Since then, I have done a deep dive into the elongated skulls and probably done the best video on elongated skulls ever. And my conclusion is I don't think the Anunnaki had elongated skulls. So that's the only thing you'll probably catch me out on. And that's only my own error for believing other people, because if you listen to all the other researchers, they say it's all to do with the Anunnaki, that the elongated skulls. But when you do the deep dive and realise that none of the skulls are bigger than us normal human skulls in terms of size, because if they were 8 to 12 foot tall, then the skulls would be bigger, but they're not. So I did a deep dive using my research and come to that conclusion. So if you are going to try and catch me out, that would probably be the only thing you'll be able to do. Instead of trying to catch me out, why don't you actually watch them and learn from them? But if you do want to catch me out, feel free. Lone Star has wrote, prove a single one of these claims. No problem at all. Just go watch. Tell you what, I'm going to stay on for a little bit more than 10 minutes. So, Lone Star, let me see if you're blocked by... No, you don't. You follow me. So all you have to do, Lone Star, is go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Scroll down on the home page to where it says click here. Click where it says click here in blue letters. Come watch 10 minutes. There's a 3-hour documentary proving that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible. Watch 10 minutes of that. Come back with evidence to prove my evidence wrong. Don't just come back and say BS, because I could just say BS about absolutely anything. You could tell me that, that you're married to a gorgeous woman. I could just write BS. It doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I'm writing BS. So I would need to prove that your woman isn't gorgeous by at least doing a poll showing photographs of your woman or wife, and doing a poll, at least getting a consensus to say that she's not that attractive. Do you see my point? So at least I would get some evidence to do that. So Lone Star, when you say prove a single one of these claims, just watch any of my videos, my good friend. I say friend because I'm trying to be nice these days to people that follow me. And this person obviously now follows me because they probably carried on listening for more than 2 minutes and thought, oh crap, this guy's damn good. Like I say, everybody, just ignore the bit where I do my little ego part. That's just me being stupid. The Good for the Gooses wrote, the prophecies are happening all around you. You have been warned, so no tears on that day. So unfortunately, what you're referring to are things like Ragnarok or the end times. Unfortunately, I've already done a video on the end times, which I show that it's already happened. With evidence. You're going to say, oh no, he's done that as well. Yes, I have. I'm the one that worked out that the trumpets were in the Bible were rockets or missiles. You're going to go, hang on a minute, when the trumpets blew, yeah, Book of Ezekiel, all those Book of Revelations, oh yeah, the 7 trumpets, and one of them sliced off the top of a mountain. You haven't got evidence to prove that the Anunnaki had a missile or rocket that... technically it should be a missile, shouldn't it? I keep saying rocket. A missile that sliced off the top of a mountain. Yeah, I do. Oh, wow. And what about the others? Yeah, got them all. Freaking hell, you're good. So when you say the prophecies are happening, you'll find that they're already done and dusted. In fact, I'm also the guy that worked out what the mark of the beast is with evidence, and no one else has even come close to it because no one else bothers to read the Sumerian tablets and understand them, etc. Not like I do. So it's to do with the mark of the beast was to do with a meteorite. So to do with a dragon. You're going to say, what? No, it says 666. Go read it properly. if you know anything about that passage, you need to read the whole passage, not just the snippet of it where it says, mark of the beast on the hand, on the forehead. Read it all properly. If you're going to do it and start quoting stuff like the prophecies are all happening, if you're going to do that, sorry to sound rude, but I just get so fed up with people. If I put the effort in, you can put the effort in. Read it properly. You obviously don't understand it. You may have read it properly. You don't understand it. Listen to a guy that's read it properly and understands it. Go watch his video. If you find you've got evidence to prove my evidence wrong about the mark of the beast, tell me. I show all the evidence. I show... It's too easy. Sorry. I get worse as I get older. Chicken has wrote, not gods, they are demons. So, unfortunately, Chicken Lady, I am the person... This is why I say I've done thousands of videos. I have done the video that solves what demons are, with evidence. You're going to say, how the hell can you do that? Because I'm bothered doing it. So the actual first mention of the word demons was to do with a meteorite. I show that in the amazing documentary that I do. And you're going to say, well, that predates the Bible? Absolutely. So what you'll find if you watch my amazing documentary, which you won't, let me see if you follow me, let's see whether you... Thank you, Sin Mommy. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. You don't follow me, Chicken Lady, so I don't mind saying that demons are something that was originally evil. That was it. There is nothing else. It was... The first words were for demon were meteorites, and then later on people used them for anything that they wanted as evil. So, for example, Chicken Lady, you're a demon. Do you see my point? So when you say they're not gods, they're demons, you're saying that the Anunnaki were demons. You're saying that they're evil, because I've proved that demons means evil. If you're going to say no, I'm wrong, go watch my video. Come back with evidence to prove my evidence wrong. You will not be able to do that. So... The Anunnaki were not evil because we're still here. If they were evil, they wouldn't have allowed us to survive the Great Flood, which you are obviously religious because you don't like the idea of the Anunnaki being the gods. So you've took the 2 million tablets, for example, that's in Sumerian cuneiform and decided that they're all wrong, and yet your 1,200 pages of the Bible is correct. Hang on a minute. 2 million tablets with 0 inconsistencies in the Sumerian cuneiform versus 1,000 to 1,400 pages of a Bible. Funny enough, I actually did the calculations of how many words were on each tablet compared to the amount of words in total for... I've done all of that. That's what I do. That's how good I am. Thank you, the sheep herder, I'm guessing. Thank you for that. So yeah, so sorry, Chicken Lady. Bottom line is, demons is just a name for something evil. So there is no... You won't be able to describe a demon because obviously there was no such thing as a demon. It's the same as a monster. A monster is something evil. Scary. Thank you, the sheep herder. I'm guessing it's the same name. Yeah, so a monster is something scary, whereas a demon is something evil. That was all it was. That's it. So when you say they're not gods, you'd have to prove to me that the Anunnaki, even though their race name is gods, which I can prove and have proved, and you can just... All you have to do is just go to Oxford University website, where they've got loads of translations of the Anunnaki. Type in gods, and there you go. That will end that. Viva a vida travel. That was it. It wasn't video. It was Viva a vida. Blah, blah, blah. So there is no difference in race if we are all Alluents. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Now, technically, obviously there is a difference in race if you're a different skin colour, because you could then say, well, you know, I'm part of a particular group because of my skin colour. So technically you could argue that there is a difference there. The other difference you have is if you believe, like I do, that Homo sapiens bred with Homo sapiens sapiens or bred with the Anunnaki, meaning there are still Homo sapiens out there, because the logistics of them all physically breeding is too much for me to comprehend. So in other words, I do believe there was probably tribes and people out there that carried on living as Homo sapiens, and over 300,000 years managed to get a little bit smarter than what they were 300,000 years ago. So in other words, and I know it's going to come across really rude, it's not meant to be, it's just logic. That's all I ever do. So in other words, there's probably groups of people out there that are Homo sapiens, that are not as smart as the Homo sapiens sapiens. Don't hate me for saying that. That's just the logic based off of everything that I've learned. So yeah, that's the only differences I would say. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. So again, I think someone may have been muted or something. So I've missed a chunk, but I am nearer to your bottom questions now. So forgive me again. I've missed a chunk. I would sit and read every single question out, but I've missed some. I can't go any higher than where I am now. So the highest I can now read is from someone called R Afkator. Probably pronounced that wrong. As wrote, the Bible is true, and this is all been prophesied that you are trying to draw people away from God. Okay, no problem at all. Goodbye. It's not been prophesied. The sheep herders wrote, thank you. I will absolutely look at your website for those videos on souls. Yeah, it's called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits. So you need to type in spirits and then scroll to the one that says Everything You Need to Know About Spirits. There's a few videos about spirits. You'll want the long one that goes through it all, I'm sure. The same person that said about the Bible is true has wrote you are wrong, but again, once again, proving that I'm right, because no one can actually say you're wrong with evidence. They can't prove me wrong with holding evidence against me, because they can't. I know I laugh and everything else, but it's ridiculous how people want me to be wrong, but yet just willing me to be wrong, but they can't do it. Goo Rockets wrote, I haven't seen your name for ages. Yippee, hi everyone. Hi Goo Rocket. Wow. Goo Rockets wrote, it's more than a calendar. If you watch I don't know if you've seen my video on Stonehenge solved. I haven't mentioned, obviously I don't want to, if I tell everything that's on my videos, then no one's going to go and watch my videos, but yeah. Victor's wrote, Victor's wrote, what is the true English calendar? Well, technically the Anunnaki had 13 months originally, and then they changed it down to the 12. So if you want to go with the 12 months of the Anunnaki, who, let's be honest, are probably smarter than us at this moment in time, I would probably stick with them, because, you know, they've been around a lot longer than we have in terms of life. So, you know, if you're going to... Now, I know you could... You know, there's people out there that have broken the calendar down and said, look, you know, we could have 28 days in here and 28 days in there, and technically, you know, you could argue that they're right. You know, you could have 13-month calendar if you wanted to, and just on one day have an extra hour and stuff like that. People have done all of that, but the Anunnaki deemed fit that's the best way for them to do it at that moment in time, for whatever purposes they had. So I would probably go with the Anunnaki's calendar for now. The downside is with that is we actually kind of work 13 months but only get paid 12 months at work. So unless you're paid weekly, you're buggered. Alfredo's wrote, I thought Stonehenge was a game of dominoes for giants. Very good. All Energies wrote, do you think the elaborate burial rituals of Ereshkigal were to glean if someone would reincarnate? I don't recall her having... I mean, I suppose you could say there... I don't recall her having elaborate rituals. Bodies were taken to her. She was in hell. So if anyone's interested in what hell is, watch my video called Heaven and Hell Solved. I proved that heaven was space and hell was a place over in South Africa. I don't, because the thing is, if you watch that documentary on hell about bodies being taken to a Rishkagul, I do cover the fact that as soon as someone dies, the soul leaves their body anyway. So really, it's just their body's being taken there, regardless of whether the soul's with it or not, because the chances of a soul sticking with the body is pretty slim to none if you can bugger off and do something else. If you watch the video, you'll find that it's more to do with statues than it is to do with whether someone reincarnate or not, because the Anunnaki didn't care in that way whether a human or a demigod would reincarnate, but they would, in my opinion, be more interested in whether or not they lived a good life, and then they'd get the statue as written about quite a few times in older texts. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, if you've got any evidence that I've missed of elaborate burial rituals, I would love to see them. Efrens wrote, Book of Enoch are called Watchers. 200 descended to Earth, explains the early technology was taught. That's correct, yeah, you're spot on. That's when the Ajiji were teaching that their children, when they had children with human people, women generally, they started to teach them technology, and that's when the Anunnaki didn't like the Ajiji teaching us humans technology. Ploppy Man has wrote, okay, pal. Trove has wrote, and wild men. I'm not sure what that's referring to. James wrote, all religions welcome, please be respectful, no preaching, in the chat. Thank you, Jane. The Peaceful Ruler has wrote, true history is what we should all be interested in. Yeah, some people were blinkered though, aren't they? They have been told one thing and then they don't want to deviate from it, so they won't look elsewhere, which is sad. Alfredo has wrote, sorry, I've got my phone plugged in because it would have died a while back, and sometimes it goes funny on the screen. Sorry, I have to keep tapping the screen to get rid of it. Alfredo had wrote, Sir doesn't like to admit he thinks like Drac but looks like Thor. Thank you for that, Alfredo. The Peaceful Ruler has wrote, agreed. I'm not sure whether that's to do with what I look like or not. The Sheep Herders wrote, if anyone here is not aware of cargo cults, please research them. They prove that when humans were met... I'm going to see if I can find the next bit of this. With technology they don't understand, they defy it. Yeah, it's just understand, and or see it as a miracle or something. Yeah, Trovers wrote, werewolf syndrome, i.e. hypertrichosis plus vestigial tau plus, you're doing this because you know I can't bloody pronounce stuff, and there was something different species. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I can't pronounce it. I can't. Anna's wrote, I am your number one fan. Oh, thank you, Anne. Bless you. Amy's wrote, happy love, happy Saturday. Oh, thank you. Happy Saturday to you too. The Sheep Herders wrote, or shortly after the war, I forget the exact timeline, but yeah, point remains. The Peaceful Rulers wrote, after doing just a little research into the subject, my views on the Bible and religion have flipped. Oh, thank you, Lulu. See, well done. I'm glad someone's, that's brilliant that you've, little research and you can, that's all it takes. And, brilliant, well done. Tony's wrote, not aliens, past civilizations provide tech. So let me just, so Tony doesn't follow me. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a little bit of a giggle here. So Tony's wrote, not aliens, but past civilizations with advanced tech. So I would then first ask Tony for evidence of that. And he'll say, well, the evidence is the past tech. And I'll say, well, show me the tech. And he won't have any. He'll just say, well, look at the buildings like the pyramids, etc. And I'll say, no, fair enough, Tony, fair enough. So you're saying that they're past civilizations. And Tony will say, yes, they're all dead now. Because why? Well, okay, maybe they're not dead. Maybe they got amalgamated into the not so advanced technological civilizations. In which case, then you got to ask yourself, well, what happened? Why did they get... And then Tony will probably come out with some excuse like, oh, the flood. So that's the excuse that we'll have, that the Great Flood, these advanced humans that was warned about a flood coming. We knew about it because Ziazudra was told, Noah was told. But they all died out, and all their technology died out, and all the evidence of their technology died out, as opposed to only 2,000 Anunnaki here, where they took their technology up off of Earth as they watched us. By the way, there's tablets that explain that they sat there or stood there looking out the windows watching us die as the Great Flood happened. There's tablets that say that, if you're interested. So Tony's now thinking, oh crap, maybe there isn't past... civilizations. But my point really, Tony, is if there was past civilizations, how come us humans have fused chromosomes and have a missing link, the Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, 2 missing links? And Tony will go, well, I don't know. And then I'll say, well, just follow Tony. It's a lot easier than making up stuff about past civilizations. But I listen to other researchers like Billy Carson who says Atlantis. Yeah, Billy now's gone round and agreed that, after probably watching my videos, that Atlantis was made by the Anunnaki. Oh, so really what you're saying is I should be listening to you? Yes, Tony. Okay, sorry, I'll follow you from now on. No worries, Tony, it's a lot easier. Malik has wrote, do you think the Palladians and Reptilians are fighting for control of the world? So if you listen to Linda Moulton Howe, who says that the 3 different races, according to whistleblower to her, 3 different races, one of them being the Palladians, another being the Greys, not Zetas, I think, more than likely Orion or Tall Whites, and another race, I can't remember which race it was, are all fighting each other. Now, I wouldn't say they're fighting over control of the world. I would be saying that they're fighting over resources on the world. In other words, I don't think they want to take over. They could have done that a long time ago. So I think it's more the resources that they're after. Doesn't mean they want to take over. Means they come, they take, and then they bugger off and still leave us in charge. That's my take on it. The Sheep Herders wrote, yes, thank you for your Norse knowledge. Okay, yeah, I don't know how much people know about Norse. I had to do a deep dive into it, so I learned a hell of a lot very quickly. But I know, if I started talking about things on here, people will probably just go, oh, boring, because they might not know Norse. Norse is a sort of... Greek, I think, is more prevalent than Norse stories, so it's harder for people to understand me if I'm waffling on. Invigorate now has wrote, so does it mean we are alien? So we're part alien, so that's where we get the missing link. So we're part, or we have Neanderthal DNA in us, and we have something else that mainstream can't tell us what it is, and of course it's the Anunnaki. They use their essence. It actually says it if you're interested in the tablet, where it tells us that they genetically modified us, one of the many tablets. Just type in Enki and Nimna on Google and you'll see that they basically talk about creating us. The Sheep Herders wrote, oh dude, I'm so lucky I found your channel. You're more than welcome, thank you. It's very nice to hear that. Just ignore my ego side. Victor's wrote, and ye shall know the truth of your ecclesiastical. I can't pronounce stuff. And historical history. I'm gonna hurt myself. Marja has wrote, Mo2. I'm not sure what MOOI means. I'm so sorry. Trovers wrote Wild Men of Europe. I know you mentioned Wild Men before. I'm still not sure where we're going with that, whether that's to do with Bigfoots. Alfredo wrote Ecclesiastical. Yeah, there you go. See, this is why I was bottom of the school. Even my disabled son is smarter than I was at that age. Bless. Victor wrote, we know now who the Peace One is. Not sure what that's referring to. I'm slightly behind. Derek has wrote, to be honest, I think you could be right. Thank you, Derek. Just honestly, without sounding rude, feel free to watch any of my videos on my website, whatever tickles your fancy, and you'll see the evidence that I point to. I'd never do anything without evidence unless it's, unless I say I don't have evidence for it. So, for example, what was the last video I'd done? It came out a couple of days ago. I can't remember what it was. Bloody hell, I do so many bloody videos. I'm doing one on the Vatican at the moment. But whatever it was that came out a couple of days back, I did say that I don't think I've solved this one. So, it was to do with the pine cone, the Anunnaki's pine cone. So I give suggestions on what other people hadn't even probably thought of what it could be with evidence. But I haven't solved that one, so I don't solve absolutely everything, even though some of them I do. So yeah, just watch the videos and see what you think. Good Boy has wrote, pyramids are human. I hate that people think we're not capable of being mathematically sound. So Good Boy, you don't follow me, so it's nice to do this. So if the moderators would pin this, we're going to have a bit of fun again, ladies and gentlemen. Ask a simple question and we'll get a simple answer. We probably won't get any answer. So you're saying, Good Boy, that pyramids were built by, I'm guessing, us humans. So I'm guessing you're saying that the Giza pyramids were done by African people in sort of, I'm not necessarily saying South African, but African people, because technically Egypt is classed as Africa, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So you're saying that pyramids were built by humans. Now you do realise that there's 2.3 million blocks just on the Great Pyramid alone. So when you say we're not capable of doing it, we've got computers now, we've got AI now. We still can't figure out how they did it. So when you say we're not capable right now of figuring out how they did it back then. So we've de-evolved is what you're saying. Now, also, the most important point, Good Boy, is you do realise there's 1,000 pyramids worldwide. And you're going to now think, oh crap. So, explain to me who built all these different pyramids around the world, 1,000 of them. Go. If you're going to say it's the same people that went round and said, oh, we've just finished these 3 here in Giza, let's make a couple of small ones as well for a bit of a giggle. Now what? Oh, I don't know, let's go to Sudan. Let's build some small ones there. Let's go to China. You see my point, Good Boy? You realise now that it's not as simple as you think. Because when you look at the ones in Bosnia, for example, you realise that the stones come from even further away than what the Giza Pyramid stones came from, the limestone. And then you're going to go, alrighty then, you've proved me wrong for being a numpty. It's alright, Good Boy, just follow. It's a lot easier than being called a numpty. Maud Tads has wrote, do the Anunnaki mention the use of a Stargate? No, they do not. It's a fair question, but no, there's no mention whatsoever of the Anunnaki using any devices. Now, that's not to say they didn't, but I've never come across anything whatsoever to say that the Anunnaki used any kind of device whatsoever, because if they did use a device that could, for example, take them backwards and forwards to their home planet, then they wouldn't have needed all the ships that they had, and they wouldn't have needed the away station. So the logic for me is, if there is any Stargates here on Earth, they are either natural, and then maybe found way later by the Anunnaki, or natural and found by other alien races that may have been involved. So if you start thinking of Peru and the elongated skull, little aliens and stuff like that, you start realising, yeah, down the line there were other influences here on Earth. I mean, even the Hopi Indians talk about the ant people and stuff like that, which were little aliens as well, big eyes. So I think if there is any Stargates that's been built into walls, things like that, which there is a possibility that could be the case. I don't think it was the Anunnaki. I think it was more another alien race. F. Doctor's right. I always thought Noah's father was Ubra Tutu. I don't know who that is, but if you are interested in the evidence of who Noah's father was, which would have been Enki, not Lamash, feel free to read the translations by the Moorhens from the tablets in Columbia University. Marges wrote to you. Right, okay, thank you. Sorry, that was because I couldn't read what the one was before. The sheepherders wrote, I'm going to send you a message with a topic to look into. Everyone writes it off, but it makes sense. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Yeah. Viva has wrote, you've got to respect people that research and make content, so thanks. Thank you. I kind of do. If it's referring to me as opposed to a general, you've got to respect. I do. I like people that put the effort in. You've probably heard me here say, well done. I like people that research. But when you get silly people that really haven't researched whatsoever, and then sort of tell me I'm wrong, they're the ones that kind of get me on. Marge has wrote, Wheat Newt is. Kind of sounds Scottish. Wheat Newt is, but I don't know what that means. Sorry. Jane has wrote, time check 6 p.m. So I am slightly behind still. You're all wondering where Clark is. He went out with his mum, and yes, she's still alive. No matter how many times I try and fit her in the chest freezer, she seems to get out. My ex-wife. She's her and my 2 daughters and their boyfriends all took Clark out to Legoland today. So hopefully he's had fun. Marges wrote, so good. I'm guessing English isn't your first language. I'm not being rude. I'm just saying that because maybe it's where I'm not picking up on it. It's probably my fault. The Peaceful Rulers wrote, we need more channels like this. True History. But there is channels out there. I mean, for example, on YouTube, there's a channel called Anunnaki Origins. It's got over 130,000 followers on YouTube. However, they nick my content, and I've proved that. So, in other words, they don't know what they're talking about because people's nicking my content, and also the other researchers out there where I show they're wrong with evidence. When you say we need more channels like this, we need more channels of people that actually really know what they're talking about, as opposed to people that just talk but don't show evidence. They show their pretty little faces, but they don't show evidence. You need ones like me that bother day in, day out. So I was researching until I started doing this live. I was working in my room on the new video, on the Vatican video. And tomorrow I'll be working on the Vatican video. So we need people like me, which, let's be honest, you might as well just follow me instead of hoping that other people will do what I'm doing. The ones already out there are not doing a very good job, in my opinion, because I can prove them wrong. Glees has wrote, what's your take on Immaculate Conception? Well, it's oh, sounds like they're back now. So I might have to shoot soon, depending on what Clark's up to. But Immaculate Conception is dependent on whether or not the person is aware of what's actually happened, e.g. the female. So, for example, there are many cases of females being pregnant in modern time, I like to refer to the lesbian story, which is a true story, absolutely 100% true, where this woman who's never been with a man gets pregnant, goes to the doctors, says, I feel sick, blah, blah, blah. He says, you're pregnant. She says, no way. Anyway, roll on, third trimester, the baby disappears. She has blood, goes back to the doctors and says, I had blood this morning. Doctor checks, baby's disappeared. She's like, what the hell is going on? And so eventually she gets hypnotized and finds out that she was abducted and impregnated by little greys. So that's, because she didn't get hypnotized, before she got hypnotized, that would have been an immaculate conception. Do you see my point? So you have to look at it from all the angles instead of just saying, oh, God, made her pregnant. And so when you have the ability to wipe people's memories, then it's quite easy to have an immaculate conception. Unfortunately, there's drugs out there nowadays that can do that to women, or to men as well, but to women where they don't remember certain things, in which case you could end up with an immaculate conception, if you get what I'm trying to say. So, of course, the Almighty Being didn't do that. He wouldn't have needed to have picked just... Let's be honest, if you believe in the Bible as an Almighty Being, the last thing you do, if you're as smart as you guys are, you wouldn't just pick one person like Jesus and hope that he goes around and spreads your word, because there was people all over the world at this point 2,000 years ago. So you would create a person to go around, either give him wings or a spaceship, or give him something to travel, like Father Christmas, all around the planet so he can go and do his job properly. Or you would create more than one and put them in different, at least one in each continent. But of course, Jesus was over exactly where Marduk was. And if you watch my amazing documentary on who Yahweh is and who Jesus' father is, 2 videos, you'll find that, yes, it's Marduk. So feel free to watch those if you are interested. Baba Yaga has put a little smiley face with a halo. Thank you for that. The sheep herders wrote, I'm not trying to catch you up. I just didn't want to be rude by assuming you answered comments during. No worries at all. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no worries at all. We're all good here. Jason's wrote good information. Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you for listening in. The shepherd herders wrote, during the live, your research and come with receipts. So I assumed at first you had pre-planned. No, I just go by whatever. So there's actually a lot more I've done deep dives in. Shroud of Turin, there's loads and loads and loads of things that I've done deep dives, which I've worked out things that other people haven't really worked out, but I don't talk about them. But some of the other deep dives I've done videos on. So I do actually know a lot more than what I'm talking about. Also look into crop circles and Bigfoots and way more than what's in the background there. If you watch my videos, you'll see, or go to my website, you'll see how much I cover. That's quite a lot. But I only get, unfortunately, depending on what I put in the background is what the questions I get asked. So if I did one on Bigfoot, I'd get asked loads of questions on Bigfoot. Sometimes I'm too lazy to change the background, so I end up with this, and I end up with the same questions over and over. The Peaceful Rulers wrote, where can I find your video on the elongated skulls? So all you have to do is go to my website, outruhistory.co.uk, type in elongated skulls, and there's a few videos there, so look for the one that you're after. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called something like Elongated Skulls Best Video or something like that. But there's a couple of videos that's there, some shorter ones, but look for the one that's that tickles your fancy, which will probably be the longer one out of them all, because that will be the proper edited one, as opposed to me filming a screen, for example. Marges wrote, wheat you newt to newt 2. I'm going to it's been blocked. I'm going to try and translate that in case that did actually mean something. So me being stupid, I should have translated, but there wasn't enough to go on before. It was just 2 words, so I don't know. Let me just see if I can translate that. Where's it gone? It says you never know too. So I'm guessing this person was actually talking sensible. So if unless the moderators have got any reason, I'll unblock that person if that's okay. Actually, I can't unblock them. Yes, I can. If that's okay, unless the moderators tell me differently. The sheep herders wrote, what topic to touch on? So I said I'd follow you in case you come back through the comments at it later. Okay, no worries at all. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, it makes sense. Well done. Good point. The sheep herders wrote, time to answer those questions. Yeah, no, brilliant. I hear what you're saying. Very clever. To Sin has wrote, I think I really concur with your point. Thank you very much. And then wrote, that's Sue to my own research too. I'm guessing you mean that's yours and my research agree. Brilliant. The Peacefuls wrote, I'm following to learn, my friend. No worries at all. Thank you, Peaceful Ruler. The sheep herders wrote, rockets or missiles is so smart. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh snap, he's right. Yeah. So it's quite easy, isn't it? Once you realise. Well, I sound really rude, didn't I? But for me, it was quite easy. It's the same as you guys knowing stuff about stuff that I don't know. But yeah, watch my video on the Book of Revelations, and you'll see that I actually marry up the 7 missiles that was fired, or trumpets, as it says in the Book of Revelations. And that's what the sound is. You'll see this because obviously someone describing a rocket for the first time and seeing it and describing it flying, which it does. One of them actually, it comes from space. Obviously, you can guess who's firing them from up high, and it certainly isn't God. But yeah, you read the whole part of that, and you'll find that someone was there as the actual lights on the ship. It reads like a sci-fi thing, but it's there. It's all there in the Bible. Chris-Ann has wrote, what's your thoughts about the trumpet sounds heard in the year for decode all over the world? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, people would ask me that before. I don't know the answer to it because obviously I can only watch videos of it, so it's hard for me to discern sort of. I know people said it sort of sounded like it was everywhere, so it's. Now I do know that the military do underground maglev trains without us knowing. They've got so many underground things. Now there's a possibility that the sound may have been from underground, as they was using a boring machine to create these tunnels. So there's that first possibility. Obviously there's another possibility that it was something airborne that reverberated around, which is why you can't pick out exactly where it was coming from. So I don't really know the answer to it. It's a really good question. So go number 3 in the class for that, but I can't answer that, I'm afraid. I don't have enough. I don't think it's the trumpets as in the same trumpets thousands of years ago from the Anunnaki. I know religious people straight away went, trumpets, yes, it's them. But if you actually listen to the trumpets in the in your Bible, for example, or the Book of Revelations, normally at the end of a trumpet is a destruction. So we didn't have the destruction. So religious people that went, it's God, blah blah blah, they didn't bother putting 2 and 2 and say, well, actually at the end of the Bible versions of the trumpets there's always a destruction. So yeah. So I don't know the answer to that, sorry. The sheep herders wrote, this is why I want to be an archaeologist. I plan to start school in the spring for it. The problem you'll have, and don't hate me for this, but the problem you'll have is they won't teach you this stuff. There has been many professors and scholars, etc., on, for example, Coast to Coast, that have been sacked for teaching their students about Sumerian history, e.g. Anunnaki. So don't expect to look and find stuff. The tablets that are important that they still dig out of Mesopotamia, for example, that I've actually watched videos of what actually happens to those tablets. So they get taken away, and then they get looked at provisionally by someone. And this isn't me saying this, is Ivan Finkel. They get looked at provisionally to decide whether or not they're worthy of going onto a museum, or whether they're worthy of being stored. Now, you know what that really means. It means if there's anything important on it, it never gets to the light of a museum, and it will never see the light of day. Now, the only reason why we've got all the information we have now is because most of these tablets were translated 200 years ago, before the Rockefellers managed to do their infiltration, and so these translations have been written in books, etc., which you can now find online. So we're very lucky for that reason. If we didn't start looking now, we would not know any of this, and I'd be starting to believe in an almighty being myself, because when you're brainwashed enough by it that the Bible's true, but no, I wouldn't actually. I'm too logical for that. When you got 144 inconsistencies in the Bible, even as a kid, I knew it was wrong. So that's the reason. Alfreda's wrote, Billy Carson does a great job interpreting. With laughing faces at the end of that, by the way, everybody. Christian has wrote, the sounds occur at random places for minutes at a time. That was to do with the modern trumpet sounds. Unfortunately, I don't know what they refer to. Crater Man, hello Amy. Crater Man's right. Okay, we are aliens. So ... What are you? I didn't say we're aliens. I have said that we're part alien because we have Neanderthal DNA in us, which was indigenous to Earth. The sheep herders wrote, prophets at the Church of Atlantis are just real historians. IMFAO. Crater Man has wrote, we are not alike, we are not the same. So ... What now? Just all you have to do is enjoy your life. That's really all but someone's blocked you. I was just interested to see where you was going with that, and the moderators has obviously blocked you further down for some reason or other. Crater Man, the same person, has wrote, I'm Lyrian. I can see now why the moderators has blocked that person. Well done, moderators. I won't bother reading out any more of that. Blueberry the Great has wrote, aliens are really just demons. Unfortunately, I've already proved with evidence that demons is just something evil. So you would now have to prove to me that every single alien race out there are evil, and you won't be able to do that. So it's easier just to follow me and watch my videos that solves all your silly points. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but let's be honest, that is silly. To say every single alien race is a demon, because the second we land on another planet, we're now aliens. And you can't pick and choose. You can't say, we're good guys. No, you can't do that. If we're on another planet, we are an alien. That's the definition. And that's what you've gone by. Aliens are just demons. Unfortunately, they're not. So, feel free to follow. You might actually learn some stuff. You'll probably learn more from me than you'll learn in your whole life at school. Or your whole life even. If you're coming out with silly things like aliens are just demons. That sounds like a religious tone there. Nebescus wrote, did Anunnaki say in their writings that they evolved without creators? They did say that they evolved. So I'm paraphrasing, but they basically said when they was talking about the hominid species that they were using to create us, which my opinion is Neanderthal, they said that's what they would have been like in the past, meaning they evolved. Now, they didn't say that the original life was from anything. Now, they have mentioned the word creator of everything, but again, like I keep saying, just because they mention the creator of everything, if we believed that without evidence that there was a creator of everything, If we're going to go and say, okay, well, we believe what they just said without any evidence. Now, obviously, when I talk about the Anunnaki, you could say, well, you've got no evidence of the Anunnaki. I have. I've got evidence that we've got fused chromosomes. I've got evidence that the Anunnaki had their buildings. I've got evidence that they carved the buildings. I've got evidence of the tablets where they say that they're taller than us, and that they created us, and then they talked about the asteroid belt, which was we didn't even know about, and so on and so on and so on. So we've got enough evidence to prove that the Anunnaki were real, but we've got no evidence to prove that the character that they referred to as the creator of everything is real. Now you could say, but let's not believe, why can't we believe it's real? Because if we believe that that's real, then we have to believe that the 4,000 religions right now, every single one of those gods in those 4,000 religions that's right here, right now on Earth, we have to believe that as well. Why do we? Because each person that's going to tell you that their religion's real, you have to believe, because you've not gone for the evidence. So we don't have evidence there is a creator of everything. Even though the Anunnaki mentioned it, we don't have evidence. Now, what I'm saying is that if you asked any one of those 4,000 religions, any one of their people, whether they believe in a their god or whatever it is, or sometimes gods, they'll say yes. So all of those 4,000 religions are all wrong. The truth of the fact of the matter is they're all wrong. So it's totally easy for people to get mistaken. So it's totally easy for the Anunnaki one day to have said, how do you think this universe got started? Phew, don't know, probably a creator of everything. Yeah, that's got to be it. Do you see my point? So we can't take everything. We have to go by some evidence at least. And knowing that we've got 4,000 religions and every one of those is completely wrong, there's no point in saying that their belief is 100% right when we've got 4,000 people, 4,000 religions where people say each one of those is categorically 100% right, even though they're all wrong. So we don't really have anything about them being evolved other than that they admit that they would have been a hominid type creature at one point. Scrolling down, Sherry's wrote, hey up, hi Sherry, nice of you to join. Jason's wrote laughing faces, not sure what that was for. Christiana's wrote, what's your thoughts about heard the trumpet sounds? Yeah, I read that one. Sometimes people repeat the same thing. Hello Clark. Real Leah's wrote, can you tell me why you think the Bible is false? I don't think the Bible's false. I think the Bible has errors. In fact, I proved that the Bibles have errors. So the Bible is a copy of older stories up until pretty much Jesus was born. And then it's on its own. So there's no older stories that we can verify. But I have verified the older stories and proved 100% proof that the Bible is talking about the Anunnaki stories and the Anunnaki. So the Bible is technically not false. It was trying to get a story out. What is false is the King James version, is any of the New International Version, any of these Bibles that's not the Hebrew. And you're going to say, but they're copies of the Hebrew. No, they're not. They're doctored versions of the Hebrew. Go read the Young's literal translation if you want to read any Bible. That's a direct copy off of Hebrew, and you'll go, wow, it's changed so many times. And then you'll go, hang on a minute, this Young's literal translation is sounding more like the bloody Anunnaki. And then I'll say, there you go. That's why they changed it in the King James and all that other baloney versions. Real Lee's wrote, you shouldn't believe the gospel because the Bible tells you so. Take a look around. I'm guessing you're saying that we should look around and therefore see that everything that's here is got to be created by an almighty being. I'm guessing that's what you're saying, which obviously I totally disagree with that. Because when you realise that certain chemicals can create certain things, such as life, and there's chemicals everywhere, then you realise that there's no need for a almighty being. Now you could argue that who put the chemicals there, and then I'll say, well, who created the almighty being? And then you'll say, no one created the mighty being, he's always been. And then I'll say, but so is the universe with the chemicals. And you'll say, no, stop. You see my point? Yeah. Real Leaders wrote, does anybody really know the secret or the combination for this life and where they kept it? I don't think there is one, to be honest. Darwin's wrote, apologies if I've wrote this a few times. You keep scrolling to the bottom, but I'm hoping to get it before it. Real Leaders wrote, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, the life. Yeah, I guessed you was religious because the way you was talking a second ago. Yeah. Unfortunately, you have no idea. You say, let's have a laugh, everybody. Really has wrote, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, the life. So what about the 298,000 years before Jesus Christ, with all those people? What did they do? Jesus has been around 2,000 years, give or take, if you believe he is some sort of ethereal being. But what about the 298,000 years? 298,000 years of people not having Jesus in their life. They survived. If they didn't survive, we wouldn't be here now. We didn't need Jesus. 298,000 years, we didn't need Jesus. He comes along and all Christ knows, no pun intended, Christ knows how many wars we've had over his name. How many people died over his name. Before that, no one died over his name. And you want to go and say he's the way and the life? No, I don't get that. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Because you didn't think about what happened before. You was just too busy wrapped up now. Do it properly if you're going to do research. Darwin's wrote, it's rare, but sometimes a human is missing a pineal gland. What about the orb? Then I don't think it would be able to join with it. So it's not me just saying that that's where it joins with. It's the National Medical Library. So if you type in pineal gland, spirit, and National Medical, just type that in. So pineal, spirit, National Medical, you will see the National Medical Library says that the pineal gland is the seat of the soul, which is also the third eye, which is the eye of Horus, blah, 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 blah. So it's not me saying it, it's them. So if you don't have a pineal gland, I don't know, I've not researched whether or not people are born without pineal glands. But if they don't have, then the logic says that they don't have an entity join with them. The Wizards wrote, do you think engineers from the Alien movies are based on Anunnaki? Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, get a gold star for that. But yeah, 100%. And the reason why I say that is because if you watch the movie Prometheus, you'll see that on the ship on the way to the planet, there is a button. This is why, if you know, you know. There's a button. And that button has a symbol on it, on the craft. And do you know what that symbol is? It's the symbol of the Anunnaki home planet, which is also the same symbol that we have for the Vatican, which is also the same symbol that we have for the dollar bill, the eagle. Now you're going to say, hang on, it's not an eagle, the Anunnaki. No, it's the same description. Even in Egypt, they also have the same thing. Where to watch my very latest video, you'll see what I'm on about. So Ridley Scott clearly put the planet symbol of the Anunnaki's home planet on their craft as they went towards that planet. Clear as day. So yeah, 100%. Yeah, good. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, go watch it. You'll go look up the. Technically, no one will tell you it's the Anunnaki's home planet symbol until you do the research. But just watch my videos, you'll see. Hi Quam and Memes has put for crucifixes, which is really sad because I know if I died by a gun, I wouldn't want to see a gun ever again. So I don't know why religious people even look at a cross. It's ridiculous in my opinion, but hey, there you go. Cognitive Lee has wrote, hey, it's real Lee again. It wasn't preaching at all. You cannot handle the truth. Is that the person? I'm guessing. And then you wrote, why block me? I didn't block you. It would have been one of the moderators. Now you said you wasn't preaching at all. I've missed chunks of things. So unfortunately, let me see. I'm just going to check that you've not been blocked again. You've been blocked again. So I'm guessing you carried on causing problems. That the moderators have blocked you. So it wasn't me. If you are listening, it wasn't me that blocked you. When you say I can't handle the truth, I've been doing this since what? I don't know, what, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. It's 5 hours, 6 hours. I've lost track of time. So I read every single question out. So when you say I can't handle the truth, yeah, I'm probably the best person to handle the truth, to be honest. Astor has wrote RH negative phenotype equal bloodline of El Nephilim. So I don't really agree with that because the Nephilim, which would have been the giants, would have needed to breed with us humans for us to have RH negative. You see my point? The logic isn't there for that. And some of these giants were taller than the Anunnaki, who were already 8 to 12 foot tall, if not taller. So you got to remember the doors in the Vatican are over 20 foot tall. So in order for a 20 foot tall, at least, because they wouldn't be Nephilim, they wouldn't be giants if they were the same height as their parent, which would have been 8 to 12 foot tall, if not taller. So they would have been, there's a finger bone in Michael Tellinger's got a finger that worked out, I think, over 20 foot. The person would have been over 20 foot. So you're saying that by the time they were adults, the chances are they would have been, let's be honest, probably 20 foot. You're saying that they physically bred with human women to give them the RH negative gene. Now you've got to ask yourself, where did the RH negative gene blood come from for them to get that? So you can't just have the Nephilim suddenly appear, because the Nephilim were the offspring off of the Anunnaki and humans that had gigantism. Oh, it all makes sense now. Yes, it does. That's why you follow me. So the Anunnaki that had children with the human, let's just call them humans instead of keep saying Homo sapiens and sapiens, etc. With the humans, some of those had gigantism, which would then taller than their parents, which would eat them out of house and home. That's why they would have also had RH negative, same as some of the other offspring from the Anunnaki that didn't have gigantism, such as Adapa, which would have been Adam, and Tyto, which would have been Eve and Noah, who were also Enki's direct son with a human woman. So RH negative obviously comes from the Anunnaki, and yes, Nephilim may have had them, but certainly we didn't get them from Nephilim because of the reasons I've explained. The logic isn't there for me on that one. Albert has wrote, you hear of New Earth? You hear of New Earth? Many a time, but I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. Are you on about another place, another planet, or are you referring to the New Earth that's going to happen in the future? I'm not sure, because there's different New Earths that I've heard. Cognitively is right. I was actually shared this live. I'm guessing you mean I actually shared this live. Take note, I was blocked, people. Truth, don't fear scrutiny. Again, I haven't blocked you. It was obviously something that the moderators had done. It takes 2 seconds for the person to work out that I'm behind on the messages by probably half an hour, if not more. So by the time I come to block you, Yeah. Cognitive has wrote to Sherry, I wasn't preaching, I said one line, and then wrote, laugh my A off. And then Sherry, also Sherry probably blocked this person, and then wrote, it was preaching. Kerry then wrote to Cognitive, keep arguing and see what happens. I'm guessing this is where you got blocked a second time. Again, not me. Cognitive has wrote, we don't believe because the Bible tells us so. No real Christian does. Not quite sure what that means. We don't believe. Do you mean you don't believe the Bible, or you don't believe what I'm talking about? Because what I've found is most Christians don't even know that there's older texts. Honestly, they don't. I've had discussions with people that says Hebrew is the oldest language in the world because they have no idea. Bobby's wrote, what do the tablets say about reincarnation? So the best one to go with is the Emerald tablets. They're the ones that go into severe detail, real detail, into what it's referring to about the entity joining with... Hang on, Clark. He's asking for dessert. What did you have out? What did you eat when you was out? You had pizza? Alright, give me 10, 15 minutes, Clark. So yeah, the Emerald tablets are probably the best. Now, the Anunnaki do talk about spirits, but not in the reincarnation way until you get things like the Book of the Dead or the Emerald tablets. Then it starts talking about reincarnation. So I do cover all of that in my video 3-hour documentary called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits. So if you're interested in seeing about the reincarnation side, including case studies that were done by the University of Virginia into reincarnation with evidence, feel free to watch the video. It's 3 hours long. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits, and it's on my website along with the 1,000+ other videos that are there covering all different things. Cognitive Lee has wrote, we search the scripture and take a look around. Sorry, I'm just... Kerry's wrote, respectfully, we don't care about your Bible. So I'm guessing Kerry's... I know what Kerry's saying, but I'm being nice. So I'm guessing Kerry's saying to Cognitive, it's nice that you're telling us that you search scripture and you take a look around, but what Kerry's really saying is you haven't looked hard enough, because you would then find what I found. So therefore Kerry's not that interested in what you've got to say, because we've gone a little bit further than where you've gone, and we've found the actual correct information, whereas you haven't yet. Sherry, in fact, had actually just wrote exactly the same as what I pretty much just said. To Cognitive, search the cuneiform tablets, then come back. And then Cognitive replied or wrote, so many butt-hurt people, Jesus is the truth, they lie. Again, Jesus wasn't the truth for 298,000 years. So how does that work? Do you see my point? You're quite happy to more people's died in the name of Jesus now in 2,000 years than they did. 0 people died in the name of Jesus for 298,000 years. You get where I'm going with that? It's something not quite right. Then Sherry had blocked Cognitive. Kerry had then wrote, not Sherry, Kerry had then wrote, Jesus didn't fulfill a single prophecy. Which is true. He did, in fairness, Jesus did... give me a second, I'm going to try and help out the religious people. Jesus... Yeah, can't. You're right. I'm trying to... Lulu's wrote, afternoon, everyone. Hi, Lulu. This is live. I read every single question. Jane had also blocked Cognitive as well as Kerry. Trailblazers wrote, are you saying Zizerd, the biblical Noah, was a son of Enki? Yes, I am. So if you look up, either watch my amazing documentary on the Great Flood. I mean, seriously, when I say there's 1,000+ videos, there's 1,000+ videos. My documentary, free of charge, just click on it. It's an hour long, and you'll see the translations from the Moorhens of the tablet that refers to. Sherry's wrote, we've just blocked the second coming of Jesus. Chat is full of religious people, I'm guessing you're going to say. Can't read the last part of that, but yeah. So religious people, Jesus is the way. Move along. You're right. Jesus is the way. There's nothing to see here. Please move along. There's no such thing as aliens. They're all demons. Fallen angels are lovely. God's wonderful. You can all just move along now. Nothing to see here. We're all good. Thank you. Go find a different channel, because aliens. There's no such thing as aliens. We're all on the same side here. But going back to Ziazudra, yeah. So if you watch that hour-long documentary on the Great Flood, I read out the translations where it says that Enki sent away Lamech to go and work somewhere else, and Enki then took Banash, grabbed her loins. That's what it says, not me. That's what it says. Done something else. Poured his you-know-what into her you-know-where. And 9 months later, she has a baby. Lamech comes back, sees he's begotten a son. Now, if you look at the original words, very first words for the begotten, you'll find that Apsu had begotten Tiamat. Now, Apsu obviously was the son, and you realise that Tiamat was a planet. So you think, well, how the hell did the sun create a planet? It didn't. It begot them. In other words, it looks after them in some respect. So it doesn't necessarily mean it fathered them. It doesn't mean it's 100% fathered them. So he begat Noah, and that's why he then ended up going off to his father saying, Dad, this one looks different. This isn't my child. This one's pale skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. And his dad's basically said, it's all right, he's special, go back and look after him. So yeah, we've got all of that. If you're interested in the full version of that, just watch or go and read the Moorhen translations. Watch my documentary on the Great Flood, where I show it really did happen. Mostly medicated wrote, look at the rhesus negative bloodlines. I have already mentioned that I believe they come from the Anunnaki. Michael John Stills wrote, the whole reason for the flood was to get rid of the Nephilim on the planet. Unfortunately, if I asked you for evidence of that, you do follow me, so I'm going to be nice. I won't ask you for evidence of that. You'll say it's because of the Bible, and obviously we know that the Bible copied the older text. So if we went by the older texts, which is the correct version, then what you'll find, if you watch my amazing documentary on the Great Flood, it's an hour long, you can get to it on my website, outruehistory.co.uk. The actual reason why they allowed the flood to happen wasn't because of the Nephilim. It was because they had a thing that they dealt with that was called destiny or fate. And at the time that the flood was due, they had an assembly. You can go read the translations. It's actually there in text, ancient text. They had an assembly where all the gods, senior gods, met and decided what to do about the Great Flood, which was actually an ice shelf breaking off of Antarctica, or will break off Antarctica when their planet comes back round. So I'm just about to yawn. Sorry about that. So they allowed it because they classed that as, if they wasn't here on Earth and they didn't create humans, their planet still would have come round anyway. It was destiny. It was going to happen no matter what. So they decided to allow it to reset Earth as it was, so that there is no more humans and whatever else would have died in the Great Flood would have died no matter what. That's their destiny. So when you say it was to get rid of the Nephilim, if you actually read the original tablets, you'll find it was to do with the destiny, nothing to do with Nephilim. But yeah, sorry. I'm not knocking you. I know you follow me, so I'm just pointing it out. Kerry carried on and explained to Michael that's same thing as what I just said. So well done, Kerry. The sheep herders wrote, "Good thing I'm not a doctor." I'm not a doctor, damn it, Jim. Summer Simpson, has wrote, "I am RH negative. When I'm pregnant, I have to take medication so my body doesn't attack my baby." Yeah. So the British CDC basically says it's a foreign blood type. I think they called it a virus, which is really weird. But yeah, they call it a virus. So yeah, it doesn't belong. We shouldn't have it, and we got it because of the Anunnaki breeding with us.
For more live chats or the documentaries that I've made, please visit our truehistory.co.uk.